Not scheduled on today's agenda. I have one speaker slip from Mr. Fred Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney.
There. I'm going to just unroll that.
Came prepared.
You're safe.
Hi.
A little understatement.
2 minutes just to get this unrolled.
Can we actually get the overhead camera, please?
Okay.
Come down, please. Thank you.
You can attempt to look at that, but we're not here today to talk about it. I'm Fred Sweeney. I'm a volunteer with the 25-member committee of Safe Passage, now known as Mission Heritage Trail Association. Heidi Jones from Suzanne Elledge's office, also a volunteer on our committee.
Welcome.
And primarily we're here today to do a procedural issue. As I understand it from our good city attorney, if we have an issue that we'd like to address to the full board, we either have to put it on an agenda or we can do ex parte, one-on-one, but we have to do it separately and there's no crosstalk, et cetera. So we're here primarily to share with you that on May 21st, we had a community workshop, which was advertised in the Independent and other places, where the committee presented this plan, if you roll it all the way out. This plan that covers almost a mile of the corridor between Laguna Street and Foothill. We did a community workshop. We asked for input. We had 60-plus individuals there. They worked at tables, so forth and so on. And unfortunately, I don't believe I saw any of you there, so we're here to say, look, we've got this information. We'd like to share this with you. We realize that at this point there is a small group that is, in our view, giving a lot of misinformation and, quite frankly, some false statements about what's really going to happen or what we would like to see happen in the corridor. And fortunately, I think there's several people that understand the difference between a concept or master plan and an actual project design. And this document that you see before you is just a master plan. It's not a project. It's not a project design. It's a master plan. So we would like the opportunity to present some of this to you at some point. Ordinarily, if I do it really fast, it takes me about 30 minutes to do it between the group. If we really get into it, it'll take 45 minutes. And if you really want to get into the detail, I did sit down with one of the opponents for 3 hours, although she's chosen now to ignore most of the information that I gave her. But we do have real dimensions, we have real statistics, we have geometries that don't defy the laws of geometry, et cetera. So that's primarily our message today.
Okay.
So we'll leave it up to you. Again, if you'd like to meet with us individually, we'd be happy to do that. If you'd like us to try to figure out how we would put this on an agenda, we'd be happy to do that also.
Mm-hmm. How is this different than what we saw 2 weeks ago?
This is different. Oh, and
I know. I see the
I
differences.
skipped over. Yeah. What you saw 2 weeks ago was what we call the initial phase of this idea of making the whole corridor safer. And that phase is what we refer to as the west side of the corridor. This master plan,
2 weeks ago.
Yes. This plan is actually a master plan or a concept of ideas, and there's other pieces into this, for both sides of the corridor, both the east and west side, to make it a safe passage and respectful of all of the resources, both historically, natural, et cetera, all the way through the corridor. So there's a lot of detail that needs to go through, a lot of dimensions. That's why I say it's really not possible to do it in anything less than 30 minutes, and generally around 45 minutes, having done it several times.
Mm-hmm. Does the Commission have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Should we not agendize this or
That's what I was going to ask of the Commission. I think this would be a...
This is, I think, a really important issue, and we were only given the west side destruction.
Exactly.
And we really need to see the whole thing, because I know that there are options. I know that you guys have been working really hard on these options. I think
Can you ride on the master application of that historic
We,
structures report?
we could work with staff to see how we do that. I'm
I
not
know
sure
that
what.
was the question.
Yeah, I don't know what the.
Well, I think if commission shows an interest and asks to have it come in front of it, that probably helps you, right?
I would think so, yes.
Right.
One, because we're kind of doing this with no money. So, I mean, it's not a project, it's a master plan.
Right,
So.
and I think that was the hang-up that you had a year ago
Right.
in the historic structures report. Now that that's done and paid
Correct.
for, now it seems like you can ride on that and present us with this
All right.
master plan.
So if that's your preference, we could work with staff to figure out how we do that.
Let's start with
No, the
Joanna.
staff member, we should, our
Ms.
staff.
Kaufman?
Yes, please.
I just want to know if there's been any coordination with Public Works staff that has been representing at least the western portion of the project.
The western portion of the project is depicted on these drawings, and Public Works staff has seen these drawings. That hasn't changed. I mean, essentially, the concept of what you saw 2 weeks ago is on these drawings. What isn't, what no one has seen, other than the public meeting we had, was the ideas we have for the east side.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would suggest that to contact staff. I can give you my card, and then I'll
Okay.
coordinate with Public Works to see process-wise where
that
this
works.
would fit
handle
in.
that.
So.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Commissioner Rios.
I know that there's two groups functioning because
Yes.
I've been lobbied
Yes.
and I know about this. Has there been a sit-down with them to go over things very
Yes.
carefully?
Yes.
And things have not changed?
Yeah, as I said,
Okay.
I sat with Paulina Kahn.
That's all right, I don't need to know
And
details. I just want to
for
know
3
if
hours.
you'd made, well, that's one person. I said the group.
We've tried to meet with as many
Okay.
as we possibly could. We've been
Then I
refused on
think
several
when
occasions.
it should be agendized, and I think that we should allocate at least a full hour, if not an
Absolutely.
hour and a half, for this matter, because there will be opposition speaking, and we need to hear both sides.
Ms. Kaufman?
She ran to get her card. Would it, I think one thing would you want to see this before the structure report comes back? I think we gave them 6 weeks or a month.
I would think having the structural report and having as much information in front of us
So do it together,
would be
maybe.
important. And if you submitted information to the staff that you wanted us to review in advance would also help, so that we come in with some accurate
Yeah, we can
knowledge
give
of
you all
what.
this.
Yeah, it would help.
Anybody else have anything to say? Then Commissioner Schallenberger?
Well, just a suggestion that why can't this be an exhibit to the revised report or an attachment? Or
Because the report's not addressing the entire corridor.
well, no, we asked them to expand the report, so I don't think they're referencing an overall plan is incongruous with the report.
No, I would agree with that, yeah. Anyone else?
That was the main point.
Commissioner Drury?
That would preclude any pre-knowledge when that report comes back to us in 2 more meetings, 1 more meeting. So I would prefer to see this presented.
Oh, yeah.
Done. Hello? Yeah. Well, as a discussion item and informational meeting, we've done that before, and I think this is important enough to have as much information before that report comes back from Dr. Nye.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schallenberger?
Just, it feels like a subcommittee, though. I mean, this is we do this with La Entrada was a major,
I think, though, that we need to get a little bit further along before assigning a subcommittee.
I agree, the full board,
Because we need the full commission's input so that that subcommittee can understand where the commission's coming from. So, Ms. Kaufman, there was a request to have this agendized as most likely a discussion item. There's also a request to allow 75 to 90 minutes for it. I think that's important. Anybody else have anything?
No, that's good.
Okay. So if you would get
Thank
with
you.
staff,
Yeah,
please,
we'll work
and,
with staff to
coordinate that.
arrange it.
We would be appreciative.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I'm closing public comments, having no speaker slips. Going to approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of June 3rd, 2015. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
We have a motion by Arias, second by Drury. Under discussion, any additions, corrections, or clarifications?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Arias.
page 4, second paragraph, last sentence in the second paragraph, I suggested scattering the windows. I think scattering is not an appropriate word. I would rather say alternating or varying in there. Varying, I believe. I remember former Commissioner Sharp
yeah.
was the one who mentioned about varying the windows, and that was the point I was trying to make again.
Varying as opposed.
Varying, not scattering.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner Mahan, please.
Yeah, page 6, on there's 9 items listed that we ask the writer of the report to address, and there should be one extra one. I made the point that there should be archaeological resources should be protected if footings are dug to move those walls. I made that point, and he didn't get that in there.
Okay. That's part of the process, but
I was going to say, item 3 in the motion says acknowledge the potential archaeological and arboreal impacts of the bridge footings, but you want it to be separated
Well, the bridge footings are one thing, but if the walls are moved, they'll have footings also.
so maybe you
It's
could
a bridge
actually
and wall.
say bridge footings and wall
Yeah,
footings.
that'll be okay.
Okay. And then on that same item, number 9,
Yes, ma'am.
I think we want to address impacts
From that
to
meeting.
landscaping, including adjacent trees, not just sycamore trees.
Right.
Please.
Mr. Chair?
I'm actually going to Commissioner Murray.
Yep.
Oh, no, Commissioner Drury.
On that same item, item 3, in general, there was not just token opposition from myself, and are our comments not valid in terms of this, what would you say, not accepting the report, but comments about the report, the readmission of the report in 6 weeks? Because I was, and I will continue to be pretty strenuous in my objection to the plan as proposed, and that's not reflected anywhere in the minutes.
Well, were you accepting of the motion for them to revise their report?
Yes,
Okay.
you made me do it.
I think then, if you don't have any objections to the report, and, obviously it hasn't been finalized because we're going to see it again, but I'm not sure that needs to be addressed in
Okay,
this.
so I have many objections to the report, but I accepted the postponement. I think that's what.
Yes.
That's, and you were okay with that?
Yes, I was okay.
Okay,
But
so
I
that's
do not
why none of that got recorded, but
Okay,
continue
yeah.
to voice it and it.
Okay.
But,
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lavoie.
on that item, I was pretty adamant about being uncomfortable with the conclusion that the changes were less than significant. And it was indicated that, by Mr. Nye that he would perhaps address those in the upcoming report, and that is not included.
Okay, do you have some language for that?
Okay. That makes
Yes,
sense.
basically the comment that, okay, I'm seeing nods from a few commissioners.
Yeah, no,
We're uncomfortable with the less than significant
Yes.
evaluation of a Class 1 structure.
Instead of, right, evaluation of we consider it a class 1 in terms of significance. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yes.
And
Okay.
uncomfortable with the less than significant impact.
Yeah.
Ms. Flemings, did you get that? Thank you. Great. Commissioner Schellenberger?
Yeah, one of the main points that I was trying to make was I didn't think we could assess the impact without a more comprehensive or detailed design of the bridge, the new proposed footbridge. That was, I'd like to see that in the minutes somehow. I know it was said, but
Would you like to change
well,
item 8?
maybe it wasn't part of the motion though. But
I was going to say, would you like to change the language in item 8?
well, I guess just that it was such a key factor in deciding whether there was a negative impact on the resource. So I don't know how exactly to word that.
Well,
But that would accomplish it if it comes back with addressing this item of the motion. So that's
Okay.
fine, I guess.
Okay, Commissioner Murray, did you have something?
No, I think it's the same thing, but I remember it kept saying that the report needs to state why the landmarks, why these landmarks, the report makes a finding of the landmark worthy of these resources, and yet there was no real convincing evidence why we need to change them.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
would same thing.
I think
It's the
if
same
we got
thing. It's
Commissioner,
impacts.
Commissioner Lavoie's
yeah,
comment
that should be there.
and
yeah.
Commissioner
It should
Schallenberger,
cover
I
it.
think, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Drury, but I think the more appropriate place for those is probably going to be at the project or
I agree.
the evaluation of the
All right.
report.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other additions, corrections, or
I have
clarifications?
just one small one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Murray.
Page 5 on number 9, just a small one, just add Pearl Chase Society.
Okay. So Sue Adams, member of the Mission Heritage Trails Association and the Pearl Chase Society, understood the need, so on and so forth.
That's it.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lavoie?
On page 4, under the comments by me, after satisfactory, a period. Find it?
Yeah.
And then capitalize but or
No, strike but,
Okay.
capital S.
Okay. So that should read
good.
the tower element was satisfactory. Period. Capital S and suggested the height be reduced and requested there be a study of the eave.
Excellent.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sure.
Commissioner Drury.
Thing is, page 9, item under the motion 6, item 2, strung lights would not be acceptable. I think it should say in this location. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That in this use, in the location.
For the use as just a patio.
So,
It was for the intended use of the area was perhaps.
okay, so would it read strung lights would not be acceptable in this location?
No.
Or no?
No, because they might be if they were used in a restaurant.
Okay, all right.
Would not be acceptable for this use in this location.
Yeah, that
Okay.
Go.
Does that read better? For this use in this location.
yeah,
Okay.
That I think gets the
then it's
point across.
specific.
All right, anybody else? Okay, all in favor of the minutes as amended? Excuse me.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? There's 2 abstentions, Vena and Winnick. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Ms. Kaufman, please.
Item A, 901 East Cabrillo Boulevard. Project final approval as submitted. Item B, 920 Summit, continued 2 weeks. Item C, 31 West Korea Street, project design and final approval. 716 De La Vina Street, project design approval with final details continued to staff. And item E, 2121 Garden Street, project design and final approval. And all items except item A were reviewed by Commissioner Mahan. Item A was reviewed by Commissioner Vena.
Okay, do I have a motion to ratify the consent calendar?
Moved.
Second.
Second? We have a motion by Winnick, a second by Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? 1 abstention
I have
for
to
item.
step down.
Okay, hold on. 1 abstention for Commissioner Vena. 1 step down for Commissioner Lavoie on item A, and 1 step down for Commissioner Suding, item A as well. Motion still passes. Great. Next is announcements. Any requests by applicants for continuances, withdrawals, any future agenda items, any appeals, anything that we need to be aware of on City Council? Go ahead,
Yes.
Commissioner. Go ahead.
On the 23rd, next Tuesday, City Council will be reviewing a staff report by Parks and Rec about the Franceschi House, which is a structure of merit, calling for its demolition. So the money that the Pearl Chase House donated to help restore it, the city never matched, so nothing has been done to the building in 45 years. And they don't know.
significant,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they're putting, the staff report will have a long history of what's happened over the 45 years and the condition it's in, and put it to city council to,
So that's next Tuesday.
it's next Tuesday. And I will attend, and I'm going to go on the council. I went in the house yesterday with like the inspectors and the fire and Parks and Rec, and then they're going with the council members on Monday to take them through the house.
So it's Parks and Rec that is requesting the demolition.
Yes, because it's on a park.
Yes.
It's part of park property. So
How long have they been considering this? You know?
the demolition.
Yeah.
I don't know how long. I think they've been working with the Pearl Chase Society to, because they couldn't get the money prioritized through the city to match the grant they did get a letter from the Pearl Chase Society saying we'll accept the money back. And so it's been some. The council agenda report will be posted. I suggest you might read it, but it is one of our structures of merit.
When is it going to be posted?
The 23rd, next Tuesday.
I think they post don't they post the Friday before, maybe,
I don't
council?
know.
Yes, it's Friday before.
Friday before.
Excuse me, when is
The council agenda report will.
I think it'll be posted on Friday.
Friday.
And this is just to start talking about, because they'll have to get an EIR and a negative declaration, so it's moving in that direction.
Okay, that's a little disconcerting.
It was before the Planning Commission around 2000.
Right, to restore it,
Yeah.
not to demolish it.
Yeah, to restore it.
Yeah.
And we set up rules working with the neighborhood on
No,
when they could use it and when
I
they
was
couldn't.
on that master plan.
Yeah, there's a file this
Yeah.
big, so
I know.
So
Yeah,
it's been
so-
15 years.
Yeah,
in the
but it
making.
was never going in the serious direction of demolition,
No,
No, it
ever.
unless you talk to the termites.
Dry rot, yeah. Okay.
so
well, thank you
read
for,
that report and call me with questions,
Yeah.
and we can.
Thank you for announcing that. Any other announcements, Ms. Kaufman? Okay, anybody else on the commission have announcements? Okay, then we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Did anybody meet with a subcommittee? No? Then,
Chair,
yeah, Commissioner
I have a
Arias.
question. We have numerous subcommittees of which I have served on and never had any meetings. And maybe we need to revise our subcommittees to be more effective and accurate and eliminate those that are no longer.
We usually do that at the beginning of the year.
I
and
know, but nothing happened, and I'm still on.
Okay.
I have never met on a subcommittee yet, except once or twice in 4 years.
Perhaps Ms. Kaufman or Ms. Flemings, you could
staring at me.
put a discussion item on for, or we can discuss it during general business, whether some of those subcommittees should fall off the roster. However you want to do it, but let's have that discussion next meeting. Okay, we'll move on to the first item.
Saving.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Schallenberger.
Well, just there are a couple of things coming up, just as reminders. It's actually in the just before in the agenda here, but the Designation Subcommittee meets on July 1st before this meeting, on 1 o'clock upstairs, and the wayfinding signage that we're meeting again next week, the 24th.
Okay, good. Thank you for announcing that.
The guidelines subcommittee has the final draft of the guidelines.
That's
Those are
out
finally
in our review now. Yeah.
Okay.
progress.
All right, then we'll go to item 1, which is 1804 Cleveland Avenue. This is a staff report and public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution to recommend to City Council for landmark designation of the Queen Anne style residence at 1804 Cleveland Avenue. Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair Suding and Commissioners. We're going to start today. We have 3 landmarks to review today. And we're going to start with 1804 Cleveland Avenue. Constructed in 1896, the Queen Anne residence is one of the oldest homes in the Lower Riviera. The home was constructed by Peter Grant, who owned Santa Barbara's first brickyard. The brickyard was near the old Mission and Roosevelt School, and which is why this building is actually constructed of brick, which is an unusual material for a Queen Anne in Santa Barbara, and has the stucco coating. This is a vicinity map showing you the location. It's right on the corner of Prospect Avenue and Cleveland Avenue. And this is a site plan. We're proposing the boundary be the entire parcel so we can do any compatible evaluations if they do any alterations or additions. You can see the original building is here, and then they did an addition previously that is compatible and does not in any way jeopardize its eligibility to be landmarked.
You want to put the picture?
The property does qualify for city landmark status as per the Santa Barbara Municipal Code. As previously stated, it is one of the earliest and most elaborate Queen Anne-style houses in the Lower Riviera. Moreover, the house is associated with the earliest development of the Lower Riviera. It is, as that area really was not heavily developed until the early 20th century. The building is an exemplification of the Queen Anne architectural style. The house has character-defining features, including its decorative wood trim work, the elaborate central gable, the ornate front porch, and the wood windows. It is important to the development of Santa Barbara's architectural repertoire. Because 1804 Cleveland Avenue is one of the few residential houses in the Lower Riviera that incorporates Queen Anne style, it's considered the best remaining architectural type in the neighborhood. Although most Queen Anne buildings in Santa Barbara were made of wood, other regions did use the brick and stucco to construct this style. The house is of unique construction in Santa Barbara with its brick masonry and stucco coating. The building does embody outstanding attention to design, but also extreme attention to detail, materials, and craftsmanship in the intricate wood trim work spindles, wood double-hung windows, wood front door, sandstone foundation that qualify this building as a landmark. I love this picture because it really shows these beautiful lugs on the upper sash of the windows, which is such an elegant feature of the original windows. And it also shows the nice cut sandstone foundation of the bay window. It is, as we said before, this neighborhood had more arts and crafts style houses, so this unique high style Queen Anne is rare for the neighborhood, as it's been part of it since 1896 and is an established and familiar feature of the neighborhood. And the house does retain its character-defining features, including the intricate woodwork, elaborate gable, and porch columns, and since 1896 has retained its integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, and feeling and association. So staff and the HLC Designation Subcommittee do recommend that the HLC adopt a resolution to recommend to City Council the designation of 1804 Cleveland Avenue.
Thank you. I will open public comment. I do not see any speaker slips, so I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission for any discussion. Do you have any questions or comments? Commissioner Murray.
I was wondering if we could add Peter Grant House.
Call it the Peter Grant House?
Yeah, the Peter Grant House, since it's unique. And I think some of the houses we call them by their names of.
We do.
Would
some
that
of them.
be okay?
Yeah.
A Queen Anne style, all that. Peter.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion. Thank
Queen
you.
Anne style resident hyphen Peter Grant.
However you do it, right?
Peter Grant House.
Yeah, that's the only comment I had. Otherwise.
Anybody else? So I'll look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion to.
Accept the report.
Motion to forward
Accept the
this to
report.
the.
Forward this to the City Council for designation as a city landmark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we
Sorry.
have, that's okay. We have a motion by Arias and a second by Mann. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries.
Beautiful house.
Good job.
I want to thank the owner of the house as well.
Well, I used to deliver the news press to
You
them.
really
Actual real paper. Next item on the agenda
Yeah,
is
really.
item 2, which is 715 Anacapa Street. This is a review of staff report and public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution to recommend to City Council for city landmark designation of the Santa Barbara News Press building located at 715 Anacapa Street. Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you. I did hear from a representative of the owner today, and we haven't had any contact with them till today. And we've had to send things to the legal address, and I know Bill Mahan and I have both tried to contact them.
Right.
They did request that we hold the public hearing, but maybe postpone action so they can meet with I and the subcommittee for more information on landmark designation, since they did not contact us till today. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do the presentation and discuss. And
We'll
go
just
forward.
postpone the recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this is one of the most important buildings in Santa Barbara, as it's an icon for the local news media, and it surrounds Plaza de la Guerra along with the city's most important buildings, including Casa de la Guerra, Orania Adobes, and City Hall. It forms an integral element of Santa Barbara's historic character and appearance. It was constructed in 1922 in the Spanish colonial revival style, designed by one of Santa Barbara's most renowned architects, George Washington Smith. The building is a monument to Thomas More Stork, an editor and publisher for more than 50 years of the Daily News, now called the Santa Barbara News Press. The structure has been on the potentials list since 1978 as eligible to be designated a city landmark. This is just a vicinity map showing it's anchoring the south end of Plaza de la Guerra. And we are proposing just the 1922 and the 1951 tower be part of the designation, and that be the boundary. This is a picture of the building 2 years after it was constructed, and this is taken in 1924. The News Press was one of the first commercial Spanish colonial revival buildings in Santa Barbara. It set the precedent for other important institutional buildings like City Hall, schools, and banks to be designed in the same style. With its completion, the City Hall followed it 2 years later, and it was as well as El Paseo all around De La Guerra Plaza. And it was one of the city's first examples of urban planning unified by the Spanish colonial revival style. Thomas Stork was the editor and publisher of the Santa Barbara Daily News, now the Santa Barbara News Press. He was also a rancher, citrus fruit grower, postmaster of Santa Barbara, and awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Journalism in 1962. His work in the media, merging this newspaper with the morning press to create the Santa Barbara News Press, as well as founding AM radio station KTMS, a member of the California Crime Commission and Board of Regents of the University of California. His contributions to the development of Santa Barbara include spearheading numerous public ventures, including the establishment of the airport, building a Lake Cachuma, and upgrading Santa Barbara State College to our own UCSB. Under Criterion D, you can see the character-defining features of the Spanish colonial revival with the smooth stucco walls, the deeply recessed wood windows, the wide overhanging eaves, and the carved wood brackets and the red clay tile roof and the wrought iron rejas that are character-defining features of the building. The formality of the News Press building was a departure from George Washington Smith's usual romantic Andalusian design and demonstrates his great flexibility with the style. As we mentioned before, several major cultural buildings within the downtown core were built in this architectural motif, reflecting the city's colonial and Mexican past. And as a result, after the earthquake occurred, as you all know, the Community Arts Association viewed the disaster as an opportunity to rebuild downtown in the Spanish colonial revival style. This rendering is actually Luda Maria Riggs' rendering, done when she worked under George Washington Smith. As most of you know, but Smith became one of the preeminent practitioners of the style. His key inspiration for the simplicity and details found much of his oeuvre of the Spanish colonial revival style. The architectural historian David Gephardt wrote that Smith's Spanish colonial revival signature was the picturesque simplicity of his use of extensive plain walls, arches, clay tile roofs, and iron grill work, as reflected in this building. Here's just some close-up of the views that reflect some of the outstanding detail and craftsmanship reflected on the building, including the wide overhanging eaves and decorative brackets, the ornate doors, the wood windows, and the iron rejas. And because the News Press building has anchored the south side of Plaza de la Guerra since 1922, taking its place along with City Hall and other city landmarks to surround the plaza, it represents an established and visual feature of the neighborhood. And the building retains its character-defining features since 1922, including location, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, so that it still conveys the appearance of 1922. And the 1951 tower was found compatible with the original 1922 building and has gained its own historic significance as part of the News Press building for over 60 years. And staff and the HLC Designation Subcommittee do recommend that the HLC adopt the resolution to recommend to City Council to designate the News Press building. But deferring that action, so that the applicant can get more information.
Okay. I will open public comment. I have one speaker slip from Mr. Callum DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
Good afternoon. I just
Excuse me.
want to know how the 1951 tower fits into the design of the George Washington Smith design. I remember being opposed to it at the time, and I would like some analysis of how it fits into the overall design. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I will close public comment, bring it to the commission for any discussion. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Arias?
Go ahead.
No, you.
Okay. A question of staff.
Hernandez, question
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
When Thomas Stork got the Pulitzer Prize in 1962, wasn't that for when the news press disclosed the existence of the John Birch Society? I know that disclosure went across the United States and made it a very prominent splash. And I was wondering if that shouldn't be cited in here, in his accomplishments, because it was...
I can cite that in the staff report. I think the staff report detailed what it was for. Let me...
I didn't hear the John Birch Society.
Okay.
Pardon my...
Bill, do you remember if the Pulitzer was for that or not?
It was for his editorials against the John Birch Society, which happened about 1960.
Yeah. So I think it would be nice if it was identified as to what the award was for.
Pardon my ignorance, but or my youth. What is the John Birch Society?
Excuse me?
You really?
I'll tell you later.
No, I am not joking, actually. I don't know the John Birch Society. What is
The
that?
very, very right-wing
Hot dog eaters. People really like hot dogs.
right-wing organization, I think mostly in Montecito.
It was named after I think a gentleman who died as a prisoner of war during the Korean War, my recollection.
Well, I know my face is a lovely shade of red, so let's move on.
Well, if we could cite I think it was a significant thing in the newspaper world and in the United States, and that should be cited.
Commissioner Lavoie.
A question of staff.
Yes.
The property line, as it approaches De La Guerra Plaza, does it follow the horseshoe shape, or is it rectangular?
It's rectangular.
So you're indicating the property line as the boundary?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Just the facade, just the building, not the landscape. Because I
think the landscape area in front of the
Yeah.
building should be included in the designation boundary.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, as much as it is their land.
Okay.
Well, that it is the property line, not the...
It's probably to the back of the sidewalk, mainly.
That's fine.
Yeah. Back of the sidewalk, probably.
Yeah, I'll double check the parcel.
Yeah, please.
Any other comments or questions?
Oh, I can answer
Thank you.
Did you want me to answer Callum's question about the tower?
Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, I
Commissioner.
I included, I found this in the structures report that was done on the De La Guerra Plaza. They analyzed the building in that structures report, and they analyzed it saying the construction of the tower introduced an emphatic vertical element and inserted two large rectangular windows that mimicked the appearance of the first floor's existing fenestration and produced a balanced arrangement to Smith's design. And then they found it contributed to the original significance. I guess that...
So that's in the historic structures report. Okay, great. All right. Does someone want to make a motion?
Are
we going to hold...
Oh, I'm sorry.
We defer this action. I'll make a
Then
motion.
somebody should make a motion to postpone.
To postpone this action until the...
I would say indefinitely, but I would hope we'd be back within a few weeks.
Or indefinitely, in order that the designation committee may meet with the owners.
Great. Have a motion by Arias. Do we have a second? And then I'll get a
Second.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Commissioner Drury. Then under discussion, Commissioner Murray first, please.
I would not mind, I would not want the indefinite.
Okay.
I think we should make a date, because this has been in the works for a long time.
Okay.
So maybe...
So 2 meetings from now?
Yeah.
Weeks.
4 weeks. A 4-week continuance.
Mr. Chair, to include Yes, I would include that in the motion. Also, I would include in that the statement about the landscaping that was mentioned, and also identifying the Pulitzer Prize, reason for his Pulitzer Prize in the report. Okay. And I'm not sure if I forgot anything else that somebody else mentioned.
Sounds like you got it.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, and we finished discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. So that was a motion to postpone it for 4 weeks.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda then is 1129 State Street, 1119 through 1137 State Street, and 9 through 15 West Anacapa Street. This is a review of a staff report and public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution to recommend to City Council for city landmark designation of the San Marcos building located at 1129 State Street, including the 1119 and 1137 State Street and 9 through 15 West Anacapa Street. Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair Suding and Commissioners. To just refresh Commissioners' memory, this proposal came before you a little over 2 years ago and was postponed indefinitely because the owner was looking at maybe doing a facade easement to protect the facades.
Right, I remember that.
But we have come to a negotiation with the owner to include the facades as the boundary of the landmark. So it's landmarked, but just the facades that exposed to the exterior, including the Paseo, the State Street Paseo, and the courtyard. So that we're back here today with an agreement with the owner rather than a facade easement.
Gotcha.
So I will begin with, can we put this back on slide view? I don't know, this is easier to see, I think. Okay, so as many of you know, the exquisite detailed work of the San Marcos building has been an integral part of the downtown streetscape since 1926. As seen in this photo, you can see the 3 phases of construction. This State Street building, this 4-story one, was constructed in 1913. And then there was an addition to it in 1923 of a 4-story building facing Anacapa. And then the 1925 earthquake took down the whole corner, and it was reconstructed by H.C. Chambers and Myron Hunt in the Terrace style. And they also took the other 2 wings of the 2 remaining buildings down to 2 stories. So this is what it looked like at completion. So this is the boundary we were just discussing. We proposed to exclude the rear elevation because it's been heavily altered, and include the facades of State Street, Anacapa Street, the State Street Paseo, and the interior courtyard. I'm just going to, these are some photos of here's the State Street elevation, which was reconstructed under HLC review in 2006 in a quest to return the State Street facade to its original appearance. And then these are the storefronts on West Anacapa, which actually still have their original transom glass, these recessed doorways, and the large plate glass windows. And this is the new Paseo that was reinstalled. Not in its original location, but the commission made a real effort to get that connecting Paseo back adjoining Anacapa to the courtyard. And these are views of the courtyard with the beautiful ornate cornice, and this is the view from the State Street Paseo. Let's see. Now we'll go into going through the criteria quickly. This was designed, as I said, by Myron Hunt and H.C. Chambers, who incorporated the Spanish Colonial Revival architecture into the design of the reconstruction of the building. And they used the cast concrete detailing and arched paseos and into the interior courtyard that make this a unique and important structure to this heritage of Santa Barbara. The Churrigueresque architecture is originally from the Baroque style of John Jose Churriguera of Salamanca, Spain. And this style was characterized by elaborate decoration, picturesque assemblages, as seen on the San Marcos building. It was even continued further by architect Bertram Goodhue, who designed the substantial buildings at Balboa Park in San Diego using this elaborate style. It was not particularly popular in Santa Barbara, where simpler forms of the Spanish colonial style were preferred. But as a result, this leads to this building being one of the best examples we have in Santa Barbara of this style. In the partnership of Hutton Chambers, they designed a number of libraries, including our own Faulkner Gallery here in Santa Barbara, as well as libraries in Redland, Palos Altos Verdes, in Pasadena. As also, they designed civic buildings in Pasadena, the Huntington Library, the Ambassador Hotel, and the Rose Bowl. They have consistently demonstrated outstanding architecture, and they have contributed greatly to the city and the state of California. The building does demonstrate excellent attention to architectural detailing. As noted previously, it has striking examples of Churrigueresque architectural design elements, including the low-pitched tipped roof with clay tiles, as well as the cast concrete. So the building has had some alterations, but we still hold that it has a high level of integrity of materials due to the character-finding Churrigueresque cast stone elements of the facade and interior courtyard remaining intact. I'm just going to review some of the alterations that have happened. Some of the second-story windows were originally 1/1 and double hung. The lower sash of the second-story windows have been altered to have jalousie glass divided by a wood mullion in the original casings. In addition, the original design of the 1926 storefronts had included the wide arch storefront openings that were altered in 1949 when Woolworths had altered them. But the 2006 restoration that the HLC reviewed returned the arch images back to the storefronts. So this building has gone through a lot to be returned to what it looks like today. Although storefronts are particularly susceptible to alteration in response to changing markets, the San Marcos building was fortunate to have them altered in consultant with the HLC. And although changes have occurred on the structure, all of the ornate Churrigueresque ornamentation has survived to allow this sense of grandeur and firmly anchor this corner, which we can still consider it landmark worthy. So we do, HLC and staff and the HLC Designation Subcommittee recommend this become designated as a landmark.
Okay, thank you. I will open public comment. I have one speaker slip from John Park. Mr. Park, if you'd please come up to the microphone.
Welcome. Afternoon. My name is John Park. I'm from the law firm of Allen & Kimball, and we represent the owner, 1129 LP. It's managed by SEMA Corporation. I just wanted to show you that I can pronounce Churrigueresque.
Churrigueresque.
That's one thing I've learned. But more seriously, I do want to tell you that the owner does support this process and supports the resolution with one qualification. That's why I'm here to explain that qualification. With any of these landmark applications, the owner can take one of two approaches. One approach that you see more often than you should is for the owner to bury their head in the sand and say, oh, it's not a landmark. It's been there 100 years and it's hardly changed, but it's not a landmark. We're not going to claim that. The other approach, of course, is to accept the inevitability that this is a useful process. It's important for the city. It's important for the building owners. And then try to collaborate with staff in practical ways to make it all work. Staff has done a great job here. I hope you all appreciate your staff. Well, sometimes. I've really enjoyed working with Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Limon to address the practical concerns we have, because the conundrum here for the landowner is that there are things you want to protect and should be protected. I'm going to say Churrigueresque again, the Churrigueresque detailing. But there are other things that have been changed and shouldn't have the landmark label on them, because in the future you're going to see efforts to revise the building in some manner. And somebody's going to have an argument. It'll be an argument right here about, is this historical? Is it not historical? And why devise arguments in the future that we can avoid? So that goes to what our qualification is. I like the way they've done this. I think staff has actually come up with a better way of doing this than the preservation easement I proposed 2 years ago. It's just something more familiar to you. It'll be more familiar to the landowners. and anything that would happen, even with the preservation easement, would need review anyway. So this is a good way to do it. But what we would like to see is an appendix to Ms. Hernandez's staff report or to the resolution that would spell out, or rather identify, which features are historic and which ones are not, and include some photographs. I think that can be done relatively easily. And I've brought some photographs today, about a dozen of them, to show you just as to illustrate this. So perhaps I could go through these right now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask you to do it quickly. I appreciate you being here, but I do need to keep this moving as well.
Okay, I'll talk fast. Now, will you show them or will
I put them right here and...
That's the original four-story building. You can see that at the main entrance it did not have the detailing it has now. The reason I'm bringing this photograph is to show you that the transom detail and storefronts that you see originally, and I'm looking to the south, to the left of the main structure, are not what you see today. What you see today is an effort to make a facsimile of that, but what you see today on that side of the structure is not really historic. It mimics historic. It should be compatible with historic, but it's not historic itself.
What do you have to say about this big gun here?
I think the bayonet, the bayonet after the earthquake.
That's scary.
It is. This is the building reconstructed as 2 stories. It's really a much more handsome building this way. But you can see that facade that's to the south, to the left of the main door, it retained. In fact, it's the same awning and everything, but it's not what's there today.
So we're looking, if you just want to look real quick, that's the terrace that he's making.
That's what I'm making, right. Yes. Here's a more recent photo. This is of the time of Copeland's and an Earthling bookstore, and you can see that same facade to the left or south of the ornate doorway is just a blank wall, okay? And that demonstrates to you that what you see today is not the authentic structure. Woolworths, we all remember Woolworths. I hated the
that's
food.
my car.
I remember the counter.
Seriously.
This shows then that they had taken out the arched windows on the State Street facade. On the Anacapa facade, they just filled them in. I know I sound like a broken record to the building owner and to Ms. Hernandez. I hate that. I think it turns Anacapa into a canyon. Look at how pretty it is when you go back to the original windows, how it animates the entire block. Maybe someday we'll see that, but I don't want to call what's there now landmark historic, because I want to see the opportunity for people to change it in some meaningful way.
That makes sense.
I'm getting near the end here. This is a photograph I took this morning of the Paseo. It's important to protect the Paseo because it's just an important architectural feature, but it's kind of unknown what the wall treatment has been historically in the Paseo. I'm going to show you some other photos. This is a photo I took of the photos that are hanging on the wall up in the interior quarters. So it's got that artful picture of me in the mirror. But you can see that there were railings and there were window openings. This shows the same thing, some window openings in that Paseo. So for us to not have the latitude to change those things as necessary would be a mistake. That's why I want to show what's historic, what isn't historic.
Good point.
My last grouping, photo from today. This is the rear of the Paseo. Of the plaza. The plaza is a wonderful plaza, and I think with the changes that have occurred in the last few years, it gets a lot more use, which is what it's all about. But that is not authentic. Filling in those windows, it's a useful thing. It's been done for a long time, but it's not authentic. Here's a photo across the way, and this is what it actually looked like in the first place. It was an open archway, so there should be flexibility to change these things. This is that ugly concrete block thing that went in with Woolworths. I don't want that landmarked. I don't want anybody to claim that that's historic. It's not historic, and almost anything we would do there would improve that. This is the original look of the plaza. And,
There you go.
and here it is in that same corner where that big block thing is now. So I hope you see my point that there are been significant changes to this building. It'll change some more. It is a living building. That's the best way to preserve an old building like this. It's not a museum. But as we change in the future, I would hope that we don't have any argument about what's historic and what isn't.
I think you
So
bring
I'd
up a good
like that
point.
opportunity to work with Ms. Hernandez to do that appendix.
All right, thank you, Mr. Park. I will now close public comment, bring it to the commission.
Clap, clap.
I just had,
I guess I'm not closing public comment. We have one more speaker slip, Mr. DeForest.
Maybe keep these?
We're keeping
Yeah.
them.
He pops those out like that, doesn't he?
Mr. Park, we're keeping the photographs, correct?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Park and I had talked earlier today, and we wanted to bring it to the commission. Do you want to see the appendix back here, or do you want it just to go to the council? That's something for you to decide.
Let's see it here.
So we'll continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. DeForest,
Yes.
please.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that Mr. Parks explained it could, and wondering, especially if there was a move by the owners to continue to restore the structure, that should be encouraged. For example, I hated when Woolworths expanded and ruined the courtyard, and if that portion could be taken off and the courtyard returned to its original shape and look, that would be wonderful, and I think any resolution should encourage further historic restoration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions or comments.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jury?
So let me ask the city historian, is there machinery in place to please the owner and the city historian?
Oh, yeah, I can do that appendix. Just, we had discussed just doing pictures of them like these and pointing out the parts that are no longer historic. And that way, if they come back for review, we can bring to you, well, these aren't the original windows, so we don't need to keep these.
Document that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Winnick?
I just want to express appreciation to the owner and to Mr. Parks for coming in. I mean, this is what we'd like every owner to do, to come in and show, participate, as you said, and also really be great caretakers and stewards of the buildings here. So just thank you. That's really great.
Echo that.
I do have one more comment. I would like
Actually, I'm
to.
going down here, and I'll come back to you,
okay.
because there's comments. Commissioner Lavoie?
Mr. Parks brings up a very good issue. The Woolworths edition should not be included in the envelope.
Okay.
Just stop and start again.
So just do the, take it out.
Just take that out, that L out.
So if we're looking at the boundary, you're saying take that out,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah. I was here when the remodel of this building came through. We did a lot of analysis, and the architect was most cooperative in talking about what was original and what was not. And once it becomes a landmark, we even pay closer attention to what is actually original and what is not, and what is compatible with the original. It doesn't have to match exactly, but what is compatible, which is a discussion we have with storefronts all the time.
Thank you, Commissioner Arias. Anything?
No, everybody's sneezing and coughing around me. I'm just very grateful for what's doing, and I certainly support the appendix, and I would like to see it come back, and I certainly support this becoming a landmark.
Okay. Commissioner Murray?
Yes, I also echo all those thanks to the lawyer and the owners. And I also just want to say that this would really please Louis Boucher and Don Sharp. Louis Boucher especially was very fond of the churrasco rest, and just so happy that this is finally coming through.
Commissioner Jury?
Yeah, I would just like to compliment the staff, and particularly Nicole Hernandez, for the work she's done on all three of these designations. It's really ongoing and much appreciated. I just wish you'd have been here and we could have saved Pelch and Sons across the street.
I have a question and a comment. Would it not be appropriate to mention the tower in your analysis? I'm not sure that where that comes from. I mean, it was probably original after the 1925 earthquake, but I think a little bit of discussion on that tower, since it is an important element. Does the rest of the commission feel that way?
Yeah, I can add it in.
Yes.
Most of this is just summarized from the structure report, so I'm sure it's in there. So I can add it in the staff report.
I think that would be important. So we're going to continue then this. How many weeks do you think you need to do that?
We just do the two together in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
This one and the...
Do this in 4 weeks? Fine.
Do together,
Okay.
yeah.
That work?
So somebody like to make a motion to continue this 4 weeks?
So moved.
We have a motion by Drury, second by Lavoie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Park,
Nicole.
I appreciate it, and staff as well. Next item on the agenda is the break. Somebody want a break?
The confounded bridge.
What's our timing? Are we
We're 20 minutes behind. So let's try and power through this. Okay, so we have an archaeology report. It's item number 4. It's for the 100 block of West Gutierrez Street, 2035, segment ID. This is a proposal to remove and replace the Terrace Street Bridge over Mission Creek. The existing bridge is 37 feet long and 36 feet wide and was constructed in 1926. The new bridge will be approximately 62 feet long and 43 feet wide. This is a review of a Phase 1 archaeological resource report and memorandum prepared by Applied Earthworks. Ms. Kaufman, please.
Dr. Glashow has reviewed the archaeological report pertaining to the above-mentioned property. He concluded that the archaeological investigation supports the report's conclusions and recommendations.
Okay, I will open public comment. I have no speaker slips, so I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions or comments. Anybody? Somebody like to make a motion?
I just was wheezing. I'm sorry. Jeez, guys.
That end of the table is getting kind of sickly sounding.
I'm beginning to get worried around here.
Motion to accept the archaeological report.
I'll second it.
A motion by Lavoie, a second by Arias. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, I say aye, and I also really appreciate your report. It was very thorough.
Any abstentions?
Thank you.
No, I just under discussion.
We already called the question.
I know.
Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to also then just say to
we appreciate the report.
Appreciate the report very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Do you want the report back? Any of it? No? We'll recycle it. Next item on the agenda is item 5. It's a historic structures report for the 100 block of West Gutierrez Street, 2035, segment ID. This is review of historic structures site report and memorandum prepared by Applied Earthworks. The report concludes that the subject properties are not considered historic resources. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, I was hoping we could have the applicant just give a brief description of the project for the public benefit that's watching this, and just go through the properties real quickly and the findings for the public benefit real quickly. They don't, often our historians don't do that, but it will help our public a lot. I did agree with the conclusions of the report, but I think we need to just look a little, I wanted her to talk a little bit more about the findings of 123 West Gutierrez.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Actually, we have the applicant going to speak to that first, I think.
Okay, do you want to? Okay. The project description is to replace the Gutierrez Street Bridge. The main area of impact is within the bridge itself and along the street right-of-way. Although Caltrans requires that we assess adjacent structures in the first tier structures from the area of potential effect. and that is so that we can identify any indirect impacts that may occur to those structures. So there were 3 properties evaluated in the HRER and in our memo to the city.
Could you please introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, my name is Colleen Hamilton. I am with Applied Earthworks.
Thank you.
I'm an architectural historian.
Thank you.
So you want a discussion of the individual properties, which...
Well, specifically, I think 123 was, that I think is the main one that we want to...
Okay.
These are a different format than our regular structures reports, so just wanted to go through that real quick.
Okay, that would be 123 West Gutierrez Street. Is originally of residential construction in the Italianate style. Based on our research, it appears the dwelling was originally located at 927 Chapala Street and built in circa 1880. Got a...
I'm sorry.
I should have done that.
That's all right. Then I wouldn't have anything to do.
According to the U.S. Census and voter registration books, Nathan Williams and his family resided at 927 Chapala Street from circa 1880 to 1900. The 1888 city directory lists Williams as a carpenter and builder. As such, it is possible that Williams constructed the Italianate style dwelling. By 1910, the Williams family left California, and the 1912 Berry map lists the Italianate, lists the next occupant as John Allen as the property owner. In 1928, Allen sold the property to Leo Sanders, who relocated the building to the property at 123 West Gutierrez Street. In 1932 to 1946, it was occupied by John Anchor Ducoy, the last residential owner of the building. It was then occupied as the town restaurant. Proprietor Richard LaPiani leased the building from Augusta Roberts from 1946 to 1954 and owned the property from 1955 to 1986. The building was then occupied as the Talk of the Town restaurant.
So what we would appreciate if you could just tell us quickly why they're not significant, why they're...
Okay.
Because you made the finding that they were not eligible for any designation.
That's correct.
That's really what we need to know, and whether they are being demolished or not.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, go ahead. Because we have read the report, so we just want your...
The building is not going to be demolished.
Okay.
As again, it was assessed for secondary impacts due to the bridge replacement project. So let's start there.
Okay.
We found it not to be eligible because it had been moved to that location, and it was not in its original context. That's number one. Number two is that there are other Italianate structures in Santa Barbara that retain better integrity and are better representative examples of that building style. The Talk of the Town restaurant did do a lot of reconstruction, remodeling of that structure. So that's the primary reason that we did not feel it was eligible.
But aren't historic structures considered historic even if they've been moved? I mean, if I think of the Hunt-Stambach house.
Got moved 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But this one, that's what I wanted to find out.
Yeah, I'm just asking the question for my edification because, I typically agree. If it's been moved, it's been taken out of its context. But I don't think that that's the overreaching reason why not to consider it for designation, because we do have designated structures that have been moved.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it just,
landmarks that have been.
I'm a little, it has more to do, I guess, with sort of consistency than anything else. But I don't know. What does the rest of the commission feel?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jury?
I'd just like to ask the applicant or the writer of the report, the west facade, would that be correct, running along Gutierrez? Would that be correct? West facing?
Yes.
North, that'd be the north facade. Running along Terrace, yeah, north.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Gosh. Is that the most intact element of that building?
Probably.
In terms
front
of its
facade.
In terms of its, the
The
front,
front
the front
facade.
facing the street.
Yes.
This is it here, right?
I mean, the least
Other pictures.
modified.
The least modified. Those are other structures.
I think that's important. And I also just it's funny. There's a suggestion here. None of the previous owners appear to be persons of historical significance, and the talk of the town restaurant was not an important or iconic business in Santa Barbara. I would probably say that's not accurate, because it wasn't actually an iconic business. It was like the place.
It was the talk of the town.
It was the talk of the town. This place where you took an important date or had an important dinner. It was and a very almost a speakeasy type of restaurant in terms of. But it was anyway. That's just a minor.
Okay.
And I don't want to get into much more discussion because I do need to open public comment if you're finished with your presentation.
So do you want me to respond to the questions you've raised?
No, we'll get through the public comment and then.
Okay.
But heads up. Okay. So I will open public comment, and I have one speaker slip, and that's from Mr. DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
I just want to reiterate that this was a very important restaurant, and there should be whatever is done, there should be some acknowledgement, because it was the restaurant in Santa Barbara. And people will wonder, would like to know where it was. So, because it was beloved in its era.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions. And so I guess the first question that I have would be, do we want to give this that level of evaluation that just because it's been moved, it's no longer significant? I personally feel that criteria is difficult because this has been moved so long ago that it almost establishes a whole nother period and context into itself, in that location. So how would you respond to that, I guess?
And I understand that that is correct, that a building can achieve significance after having been moved in its own right for the new location. That was only one of the two aspects of how we evaluated the building as an historic structures itself. The fact that it's the restaurant, let's put that aside for the moment. Let's speak to the building's architectural style. We felt that there was extensive changes to the building.
Agreed. Yeah.
That reduced the quality or the integrity of the Italianate style on the building. Okay, we felt that there were other examples that were much better in Santa Barbara, including the ones that are in the Brinkerhoff district. And so, from that perspective, we did not feel this structure merited significant status as an architectural style. As the Italianate style. And the picture that you did bring to mind, you can see that the main part of the building, which would be down the other way, is not the one story, but the two story is the heart of the Italianate. So that is where the detail is. So you have this addition to it that is at the front of the building.
I have a question.
Let me just follow through this. Mr. Hernandez, you accepted the report, so you agree that because it's been moved, that it's lost its contextual integrity, so to speak?
That was what I was looking at the integrity section. I wasn't aware of the historic association that it had, but
Well, let me ask you a
when
different way.
we take it down because of integrity is a big one. If it can't convey this original appearance, that's a big one. But
Would you still be able to make the findings that have been made without using the relocation criteria?
Mm-hmm.
You would. Okay, that's probably how I
Yeah.
should have started out the question. Okay, all right,
I
Commissioner
mean,
Murray.
there's an option to have her detail some of the alterations so it's clear to the commission what has
Yeah,
happened.
and I agree with that. I think that alteration to the integrity of the architecture certainly is something that doesn't qualify it, but the context and the location and the relocation, all that I think is important enough. But I'm hearing grumblings from some of my other commissioners. So let's go to Commissioner Murray for questions.
Okay.
Or Commissioner Rios,
You said Murray.
I did, but she didn't want to go.
Oh, well, I frankly think that we should indicate that this is a structure that should be looked at and not ignored. It will set a tone for the neighborhood, which is important. It is Italianate, it is old, it has been moved. It was a very, very prominent restaurant in town. I think it qualifies. If we do not do this, we're going to lose it. And I would remind the commission that we established a structure of merit not too long ago on a building that had an addition that was totally not appropriate in the hopes that the new buyer would restore. And we need to look at that as a possibility in this building. Mm-hmm. So I firmly think that we need to rechange the designation.
Okay. I agree. Commissioner Murray?
I think I'm sure the historian can work it where the building may not qualify in the architectural sense, but it could qualify on the number 8, I think, says the major patterns of history. It's a patterns of history of our community. I think that can be made. And the facade, just whatever it is and all the changes that had gone through reflects that history. And the family service was there forever. That's another part of important agency. So I think number 8, one of the criteria speaks to the broad patterns of history.
Yeah.
That it could qualify under there.
Commissioner LeBoy, did you want to?
It's not the first time I've gotten in trouble with disagreeing with an historian on an analysis or their logic. But I'm looking at the back of the building here, and I see an Italianate Victorian with a kitchen addition that was probably done shortly after the turn of the last century. The windows. Turn myself off.
Yeah.
The cost. I see the windows, the surrounds, the little crown molding over the top of them is very typical of how one added an addition onto a Victorian in the Victorian period. So I'm not going to accept the report based on, I need a better evaluation of this building. I look at this photograph and it reads Italianate Victorian in the whole. There's sufficient remaining of the original building and early additions. And yeah, there's some things I really want to take off, but it doesn't compromise the value of this resource.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury?
Let me ask the applicant, what we're talking about, how many are going to be demolished?
No.
None of the structures will be demolished.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Van?
Yeah, I'd like the report to, I think we all agree that the Talk of the Town was an important restaurant. When I came to Santa Barbara in 1961, there were only 2 good restaurants in Santa Barbara, the Talk of the Town and the Casa Sevilla.
Yeah.
And that was true. And Tom Stork and Pearl Chase, people that I didn't know because I was unimportant, but that's where they all went for dinner. And they had ties hanging on the wall. You had to wear a tie. That was a place where you had to wear a tie.
Right.
And it has great historic significance for the way that it was used. When Santa Barbara only had 2 restaurants. Now we have 100 restaurants. It's had 2 then. And that should be talked about and researched.
Mr. Chair?
Actually, Commissioner Rios, and then back to Commissioner
Well,
Drury.
one quick question. Do you think Louis Doan moved this building?
I don't know.
He did.
Dome movers.
Did a lot of moving.
I did in Santa Barbara.
And it would be about his time because he moved the Stambach house twice.
And his preference, too. You know, he liked to
I
move
bet
these.
Louis Doan was a possible mover in this building.
That might be something to include in the report if it's true or who the mover was. Commissioner Drury?
Yes, just to correct the historical evaluation of Commissioner Mahan, also Leon's at the corner of State and Coda. Where
Well, let's not get into a discussion about the restaurants now.
Good restaurants.
It is, but that's not appropriate in front of...
Green Gables.
Okay.
Gables,
So
too.
what is the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Lavoie.
I move for an indefinite continuance of the report for a reevaluation of this particular structure.
Second.
And do you want to add anything to that? Maybe particular? Well, no. I guess that's enough.
We have
That's
provided
enough.
lots of anecdotal
Okay.
information.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
The motion? Okay.
I do.
It's a well-written
very good.
report.
Thank you.
I am going to ask for a recess before we hear item 6, which is 1308 North South Sepuedas.
Do you know the story?
Okay.
It's not your mother. Can't you see it?
Commission, next item on the agenda is item 6. It's concept review for 1308 North South Sepuedas Street.
I haven't figured
We will be reviewing the Phase 2 Historic Structure Site Report. Also, the project will have its first conceptual review. So, please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Tim Hazeltine, Post Hazeltine Associates.
Pamela Post. Oh, oops, sorry. Pamela Post, Post Hazeltine Associates.
I've actually, Nicole mentioned that there wasn't a really good photograph of the front door, so we've actually provided one, and I was just going to hand it out. And then one of the front large single light front windows, which may be helpful. In a nutshell, the project entails the demolition of an existing garage, which is attached to the garage with the adjoining property, construction of a new detached garage, alterations to the rear of the house, including a small addition, and alterations to the some of the fenestration on the north and south elevations, or the side elevations of the house. The report concluded that the house, which is a contributing property to the proposed Bungalow Haven Historic District, that those changes meet the Secretary of the Interior standards and the impact of the project. If it's implemented according to the project as described in the report, would have a less than significant impact on significant historic resources, including the surrounding historic district.
Okay. Ms. Hernandez.
I did review the report, and I do agree with the conclusions of the report that it meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and will not have a negative impact on the historic resource.
A question of staff, sir. Has the staff received the copy of the letter that we got regarding some residents at 1320?
Yeah, I'll read that as part of the comment. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will open public comment, and I have no speaker slips for the historic structures report, so I'll close public comment and bring it to the commission for questions. Does the commission have any questions? Commissioner Murray, please.
Yeah, I wanted to know, so this picture, is this garage the garage of this house or the other house? The other house. That's what I thought.
It's the other house.
Other house, okay. And then the other picture, okay. Okay. There's one picture.
Are you looking for a photo of the
I'm
garage?
looking for the garage
Double
of
garage,
this house. Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah, okay.
Next page. Next. Keep going. We're getting there.
We usually do the detached structure at the end. There it is.
Okay. So In the report, it says that the garage, the new garage, this is going to be demoed, the new garage is going to come out, be 21 feet away from the street. So when you say that, how far is that? I'll tell you why I'm asking that question is because I looked at the site today, and I was worrying about if this garage would come and block. The house to the north has a fireplace, has a stone fireplace, and an entryway on that side. And I was wondering whether that thing would come to block that view from the street, because as you walk up, that house, anyway.
This building?
The north one, not at the corner, but the second,
Which is
right. It will be looking at that. See, it's this one, and there's.
Get it in the middle of the screen.
Put it on the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Anyway, when you walk up the sidewalk going north, that house next door, where it overlooks the driveway, there's a stone chimney, and then the entryway to it on the side. And I was just wondering how this garage will impact that, whether it's going to come right to where will it come right to where this wall is, where that wall is? Because this wall, there's that picture again. Okay, there's a picture of that wall.
Perhaps the site plan would be more explanatory.
Yeah, site plan, and then.
So this is the proposed location of the new garage. Here's the subject house at 1308. And then this building you're speaking of is right here. Back here, though, because this is their garage, which will remain in place for the adjoining property. So their house is roughly about the same distance from the sidewalk, it's the setback. So where you would lose a little bit would probably be right. If you were standing here now, you could see a bit of it. But if you walked another 12 feet, you would see it then. Because the garage, you would still see it as you get right
I was
here.
standing right here. I was standing right here.
Yeah, I don't think...
I was standing right here.
Oh, okay. I don't think you'll block... It may be blocked right through here a little bit. But remember, this is the edge of the new garage.
I know, and there's their garage.
Yeah, it's
which
right
is not
here.
leaving.
Yeah, and so their house is right here. So I don't really think you'd lose a view substantially in the sense that it would be so obscured you wouldn't see it till you were right, say, parallel to it. Say if you're walking down.
I would need that picture of that house. Because it's a spatial relationship that is not addressed in the report. How this garage is going to, not so much, it's fine, it's not impacting its own property. I'm talking about the property.
So could we get a photograph of
the nearby?
That angle showing
maybe
the
not
new,
you, but
the new
Suzette.
house?
Maybe.
Well, you want that in the report, right?
Well, yeah, because I think it'll be really good to know, because we're preserving that whole sort of sense of neighborhood. And if this garage does not block that view, important view of that house, then it's okay.
So what you're looking for is obviously a photograph, but also maybe a sketch from Suzette that would show the relationship of the volume of the...
I know that from...
But what I'm saying is seeing the volume of the new garage.
Right.
And
How about this? How about you take this photograph here and you show where that chimney is and that facade is, and then you just put something on the ground showing where that new garage is going to be located. So you can just alter that photograph, I think.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioner Rehan. All right. Any other questions? Comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury?
Should we read the letter from a neighbor?
That'll be during the project portion of this.
Okay, all right. I have no questions. I'm sorry. I do.
Yep, go ahead.
It seems to me that is a characteristic of that particular little piece of tract on South Subcommittee, those driveways that share a common and unwalled boundary. I would imagine this would be about some idea of space because the bungalows are really small. Is that fair to say?
It's
Yes.
not, I mean, you
I'd
do
like to
see it in the bungalow haven, but it's not
It's not characteristic.
Of that
the
particular
majority
block?
of properties, but it does appear on those houses at the south end of the east side of the block. And what even though the garage is being moved forward, a new garage, they're going to restore the strip style driveway, and it will remain in its existing location. It just won't be as long, and it will maintain the visual relationship with the strip style driveway next to it, as well as the one on the other side of the house, on the other side of 1308 North South Zapata Street, which has a strip style driveway. So those three driveways will remain. The big change is that the strip style driveway for South Zapata Street, 1308, which actually has been infilled with concrete, will be returned to turf and concrete, but it will maintain that spatial relationship.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions? Comment? Go ahead, Commissioner Lavoie.
I think perhaps what's needed is at least the perimeter of the adjoining property, the house.
The footprint of the...
The footprint of the front corner. If you don't have that already.
Oh, this is, a fade out of it's not very accurate, you're all
Right.
here, so it's there. And so there's the two driveways between.
Yeah. So I think you could add that to your site plan.
Just see
Typically,
that
that is what we
location.
have, is the footprint of adjacent structures. Or partial footprint.
And then the analysis of the impact of the blockage of any potential view. Of the
side of the adjoining house.
side of the.
And would you like the footprint for the house on the south side also? So the footprints of both houses on either side of the subject
Typically,
property?
that's what we...
Yeah, just...
Yes,
get it right
please.
here.
Yes, please.
Right there. Yeah.
Because the house on the north living room is looking towards will be looking towards the driveway, whereas on the south side of the house, with this driveway, there's a good separation. There's no impact really from this house to this house.
I see.
So you see what I'm saying? Right now, it's just open, clear, and anyway, we just need to know that.
Sort of.
We do have that exhibit that we were asking about there. It just doesn't show the new garage location.
Yeah, and that's where that fireplace of the
Right.
house.
Yeah.
So we just
you're
make
almost
sure.
there.
Yeah.
But I think, to add to this exhibit here, this figure here would be helpful. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. What's the pleasure of the commission? Continue it 2 weeks? How long do you need? 2 weeks?
2 weeks,
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. DeForest. Did you have a comment about the historic structures report?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
I would
sorry.
like-
I'm opening public comment.
I would like to know, because I haven't seen this historic structures report, were the garages original to the houses, or were they added on at a later date when garages became necessary?
Either one of you can answer that.
Actually, there's not a...
To the microphone, please.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Actually, there's not a specific permit for the garage, which is not uncommon. It was likely built in the early 20th century when, as Mr. DeForest mentioned, that automobiles became more popular.
Okay, so the answer to that question is it's most likely was not part of the original structure.
And then I would like to speak.
When we get to the project. Okay. I guess we can table the motion on the historic structure site report and now go to the actual project. So why don't we do that? Why don't we table the report and go on to the project portion? I think that was Mr. Hazeltine's.
You need this?
That's not mine.
And now you may introduce yourself.
Thank you. Suzette Naylor, Thompson Naylor Architects. Thank you. And I did, submit photos, so if those can be passed around, I brought these just in case. And I think it's probably a good idea to go over them. I was thinking because they were in the HSSR that I would go through this quickly, given your agenda. So you'll see that the maps are keyed to the views that happen thereafter. And so you can see this is a view looking along this side of the street.
Okay, we're not getting that on screen, so you're going to have to say you're looking along North Salsipuedes.
Looking along North Salsipuedes. It's very hard to read upside down.
I'll help you.
Okay. And then B,
This one here.
right, is looking at this corner here.
Across East Victoria.
Yes. And C,
And this is across
across
Salsipuedes.
the street, right directly across the street. D is looking
Across Salsipuedes, so that's
corner
what we, the
there.
subject property, would be looking at. Okay.
E, again looking at that on the corner.
Okay. The corner of Salsipuedes and Victoria.
F is looking at the two buildings that we've been talking about.
This is the subject property here, and this is the neighbor to the north.
G is looking straight at the existing building.
Subject property.
And I think, they're prosaic, working class, middle class buildings, and it shows not much change in them. And now this is going around the building. Here we are street side. There's going to be very little change to that.
It's taken from here.
Then I.
Right here, I think.
Yeah, looking at this part of the building where the garage is going to move forward to.
Okay.
J is looking straight up here at the subject garage and the neighbor's garage, and you can see the distance to the two driveways and where the building is. K is in the backyard, which is pretty minimal. L is looking this way, I think. All right. That way, within from this edge towards the side of the garage.
M is looking at the rear.
M is looking at this rear that has been the most altered over the years. N
Is looking from the corner of the subject property back at the house.
Right.
And O is just a little further up that driveway.
And looking up that way.
Okay.
Neighbor's garage.
And then again, I'm again at the side of the building. I think.
Okay.
Q. I'm doing a little overkill on the garage here.
Q's basically looking
Q
right
is
at the
looking right
garage.
at the garage, and then looking at closer conditions within
Right.
the garage.
Okay.
And I sent my young man in there. I said, "You take those pictures because I'm not going in there." And then this, I realized, was missing from the photographs. This shows the existing fence and the entry here, and the condition of the concrete and the level rises and all of that, just so that you understand that.
Yeah, this.
So these are exactly the same as your drawings. They're just more manipulable for me.
Okay.
So, as you know, I'm here for your comments, and particularly because I'm asking for two modifications. So I'm going to look again at the existing diagram here. Existing building, it encroaches into the side yard setback
Use
here.
the pointer so you're not blocking what you're pointing to.
All right. This part of the building existing does encroach into the side yard setback. I'm going to be asking for a modification for a window right here to make it a little bit larger because we're putting a kitchen right there. And I'm also going to try and lift this plate in order to make that kitchen usable. So there's a structural change here and an opening modification for that's one modification. The second modification is because I have 296 square feet of open yard, very deficient. And not only that, as you just saw in that photograph, the access to it is and very odd sort of concrete sidework that cuts right through and makes it rather unusable. And it's really not, it's okay, it's got some grass. And the driveway has been filled in over the years, as was said. So one of the reasons we want to move the garage, not only because of its deleterious condition, is because to provide a much more functional open yard, to increase the open yard, still deficient, but up to 412 square feet, and with a sort of enclosure feeling here. By moving this forward, we will need a retaining wall here. We're going to return that driveway to a ribbon driveway here, and instead of coming across here and access, I'm going to put a brick landing here to come enter the garage here, walk up here. Oh, sorry. And then walk up the stairs into a gate and a little fence that comes across here and here to enclose this area here, and then into the open yard there. So this is a roof plan of the proposal that shows this roof remains, this roof remains. This is a new roof, obviously, and previously the gable went down like this. I'm adding a gable this way, lifting the plate here. So this is really the new roof, and here. When you get to the letter which talked about setbacks, it's interesting because this setback remains unchanged. I actually conform now to the setback with this building and take it out of the setback in this one. So there is no change to the setbacks either in the front or in the rear, except making it better. So I'm not 100% sure that the letter writer understood the scope of the project. I'm going to, these are the existing drawings, and this is more manipulable because I just wanted to show the existing and the proposed. These are the, are they telling me to speak up?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Suzette, drag it closer to you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's Jenna's phone.
Oh, okay.
Just
this is better.
You're good.
Continue
Okay.
talking loud.
So these are the walls that we're altering, and we're taking off interior walls as well because it just wasn't working. We're basically just providing a larger master bedroom and master bath area and another bathroom and an actually usable utility, and this is where we're lifting up for the kitchen. And the window that we're modifying to make a bit larger over here. And then, of course, here's this. Then that's why I wanted these drawings, so we could put them close. It's hard to see things together. So here's the existing, and you can see we're leaving a lot of the existing windows. This is the same, this is the same. The door changes, this is the same. I am adding a little belly band here. We are going to be removing the shingles, as you saw in the HSSR, because we have nothing behind them. And we have 2.5-inch studs at various intervals, so on and so forth. Here's our thought about the little gate as you pass through and look up in there, the stairs going up, and our thought about the little fellow coming forward with a sectional door that's supposed to look like it's a two-piece, and then the fence going along here. Okay. Then here, this is all very similar. This remains. These two are bathroom areas, so we've got two small windows here. This window gets relocated to the back here and reused back here. So there's some similarity of feeling back here except for the gable and the door. And there's the back of the garage and the retaining wall that goes down below and the fence that goes across. And again, this is a very unchanged elevation as we go across here. We're retaining this, the chimney, this little bay window, and this window changes and becomes enlarged. And then we add the gable and this little window here. And we're taking off the violations and the alterations over the years. Yeah, so then these are the other elevations of the garage, very simple on this side. And then this is the exit out the plan garage. So you can see here that she wanted a little bit of storage here and the ability to go in through a man door and not get caught behind an automatic door.
Yeah. There was a photograph of the close-up of the front door that
Back down here.
Mr. Hazeltine had.
Yeah, they're down there. Oh, there's those ones there.
Those two on the,
I'd like
see
to
those real quick. There we go. Okay. So that's the existing front door now?
That's I'm assuming it's a replacement door, isn't it, Tim? It's one that was put in
So
later.
it's existing today.
Right.
You're
existing
changing
today.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just existing. So what are you changing that to?
I'm changing that to this, a very typical sort of craftsman door.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does.
All right. Very good. I will open public comment. I do not have any speaker slips, but I don't have it in front of me. Oh, but okay, that one. All right. So, Mr. DeForest, please.
Yes, I just wondered, I didn't quite hear the explanation of why it was necessary to move the garage and build a new one. I see the new one is going to be smaller than the old one, but and still a one-car garage. Was it because of the old garage did not conform to the setbacks? Because I think by moving the garage changes the whole spatial relationship between the properties. Thank you.
May I answer?
No.
Okay.
Okay. We may get the answer from you in another way.
Okay.
All right. Then I also have a letter from Dan and Cheryl Wheeler. They're homeowners 2 doors up from the proposed project. They have concerns with the project, specifically any changes or modifications to the interior setbacks. All of the lots in this neighborhood are small. It is the existing setback requirements that provide a very minimal amount of privacy. Our concern is that as the setbacks are modified or compromised, it sets an unacceptable precedent for the area. We do not want our neighbor to be any closer to the backyard setback than we already are. When we purchased our property, we knew the limitations of use due to current regulations and have been obligated to work within those regulations. The owner should have to do the same. They know or should have known the limitations when they purchased the property. If it doesn't suit their needs, they can find another property. As current property owners, we have rights too. Rights to privacy in regards to light, sound, and odors. Our quality of life and property values are at risk, and we urge you to deny any modifications to the interior setbacks. Thank you. Signed, Daryl and Cheryl Wheeler. Okay, I will close public comment and bring it to the commission for questions. Let's start with Commissioner Schellenberger. You have any questions?
Yes. So the first question, and I saved this question from the Historic Structures report, but wondering about the covered entry porch, the roof of that porch. It seems like those eaves are super deep for the massing of that little porch, and I wondered from the historians, is that a character-defining feature, or and if so, why? I'm not used to craftsman architecture being disproportionately, with the eaves being so disproportionate, especially to the adjacent massing. The eaves are actually shallower than the smaller little structure. So I'm not used to seeing that in particular, but and then a follow-up on that after hearing from the historian. Sure, please. Yeah, I think figure 4 is a good one to look at.
Other guy, yes, Commissioner Schellenberger. In answer to your question, that is original because the owners actually wanted to change it. But
City TV, could you please zoom in?
But we determined through our research that that was an original design of the house. So they're maintaining that.
I need to clarify. I'm sure it was the original design, but I'm not sure that the original architect didn't make a mistake.
That's a good point.
Assuming there was an architect.
That we can't answer to.
I don't think there was an architect.
Who knows?
No. Designer.
Hey, let's hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know what the architects or what the builder's qualifications really were. So
more about the style. I mean,
Is
this common for this style to see these exaggerated eaves? on these porches?
And the bungalows.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yes.
And the bungalows, yes.
Certainly on bungalows.
Proportionate to the rest of the house?
Yes.
That's the question, I guess.
I mean, you can.
You're on.
Yeah.
You can look at an iconic example of the Gamble House has those exaggerated lines. So, yeah.
Does that answer your question then? Any other questions?
Okay, so I guess if you sort of did. I was wondering if there was any thought to reworking it. It looked like they let the depth be driven by meeting the two roof lines from the intersecting gable there. That sort of defined, but that's, I don't know that was the right decision. And the next thing was, has there been a preliminary Title 24 energy study? I was wondering how, if any of the decisions on the fenestration might be affected by the final outcome there.
I have an answer for that.
Let the applicant answer.
Okay.
Oh, good. And I did want to hear from Nicole also about that. I did speak to David Inger and did a conceptual before I went much further. And interestingly enough, in the current Title 24 energy calculation method, if you don't move those windows, they may remain as they are, and they actually help me in some way. The fact that I now have to relocate a window is now considered under Title 24 a new window, and I may need to prevail upon my architectural historians and HLC to prevail at the building department and say, even though it is relocated, it is original material, and I don't care if it moved 10 feet. So I understand that by changing our water heater, so on and so forth, that we're going to be able to go over the top on this. Thank you.
Did you have something you wanted to add to that, Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, so the California Historic Building Code does honor that historic structures, which are exempt from that. And I just worked on, with the building department, the 424 Plaza Rubio building, because they added those new windows and they were to match the originals in material and single pane.
Right.
And because of the historic status of the building, those new windows were exempt.
Yeah.
So Lonnie Cassidy's great contact for that, because she really understands the historic building code in relation to our buildings in Santa Barbara.
Thank you.
Last thing, yes. There on the plan, there looks to be just exterior of the new master bedroom. There's looks like some kind of chase or.
Oh, those are underfloor vents because the ground rises up and I'm underground and I've got to have a darn little, the corner thing. So I had to go under and up.
Foundation vent.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ravena, any questions? Commissioner Rios?
Yes, one question. You're changing the driveway back to the split design. Is there any chance you can use permeable?
I think my owner would be very open to that.
Yeah, because even though you've got the split in the center, which will help for absorption, we are pushing permeable pavement type of thing. So I would very much like to see that.
Commissioner Lavoie, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Murray?
No questions.
Commissioner Winnick, any questions?
No questions. Thank
Commissioner Mahan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When you demolish the garage, I mean, it's a joint garage now. What wall is left? What kind of a wall is left on the property line?
So in other words, what's this neighbor's garage to remain?
We're going to work with the neighbor to build a wall in tandem with their desires and whatever will work. I don't know what's left there, to tell you the truth.
Yet.
No, we haven't been into that area right there.
Right now, is the joint garage is open to?
No, there's a wall, but there's so much stuff up against it. Oh, you've been there?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, good.
If you don't mind me interjecting.
Yes, please.
It's a vertical board wall with no battens, which is, and it's actually essentially the same construction technique as the south wall of the existing garage, which is just vertical boards. And I would just like to, if I have just a second, in regards to the front porch, it is somewhat idiosyncratic because the eaves do not match around the house. However, it is in the proposed historic district, and it's sometimes these small idiosyncratic features you wouldn't find if it was designed by a licensed architect, for instance, that actually kind of lend not just charm, but the history of the neighborhood, which really is our houses primarily designed by carpenters and contractors.
Another question.
Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
I understand the new window here. That's going to be a mod because the new window will be in the setback.
Correct.
And then the size of the rear yard is also a mod.
Yes, because I'm still deficient, even though I've increased it.
Yeah. So are those the two mods that you're talking about?
Those are the two mods: the window and the open yard. But also, I'm doing a structural change on the plate in that same corner where that window is. I've got to lift the plate up in order for that kitchen to work because it slopes quite a bit with the original.
Commissioner Drury, any questions?
Yes. So just for my own edification, how much does that modification, that window on the southeast side, how much does that intrude into the setback?
It doesn't go into the setback. It's in the same wall. I'm just opening the opening.
So that has to be a modification.
Yes.
And I guess the other question is what Mr. DeFore said. What is driving the idea of moving the garage down the driveway?
Open yard.
Well, there are a lot of non-conforming things about the building, but as the point was made, it makes it very picturesque and characteristic of whoever designed this building and built it. When my owner bought it, there were some interesting things about the building which I won't detail. But the garage in particular was is in terrible shape, and he's very concerned about it. Our thought was that we could kill two birds with one stone, actually giving him a usable, functional rear yard, increase the open yard setback, and
just the open yard,
and rebuild something that was not out of scale and out of character. And we recognize that it's, different from what was there, but we hope it works.
Thank you.
I guess just one question. Have you spoken to the Wheelers at all and gotten together with them to discuss the plan and the approach and make sure that they understand that legally you are allowed to build up to the setback line? I have a feeling what they're concerned about is the change to where the existing building is, but you do have a legal right to build up to that property line or that setback line. So have you gotten together with the Wheelers?
I personally have not. However, my owners are really, really good about a lot of the things that I've suggested. And one of my main things in my practice is always, please contact your neighbors. Please take my drawings. Have me come along. Let me answer their questions and distill their fears. Mm-hmm. So he has contacted, as far as I know, as he's told me, all the neighbors in the area. So I have not met the Wheelers myself.
Okay. All right, comments. Commissioner Schallenberger.
Well, just that on that note, I would support the modifications. It was a little unclear reading the neighbor's letter. It's supportable. You're actually moving a building out of a setback and reestablishing the setbacks. Nothing you can do along the east side of the building. It's existing encroachment to remain, and you're enlarging and opening. It's already there. So I support those, and the design I think is completely sensitive and compatible with the existing.
Okay. Commissioner Vena?
No comment.
Commissioner Rios?
I agree with what has been previously said. I think it's very well done.
Commissioner Lavoie?
I agree with those comments and would add that it's a very modest addition. It's probably one of the most modest we have ever seen.
Commissioner Murray, comment.
I really agree, and the fact that it's still a one-story and it's got in the yard. I actually went there and looked around and peeked around and the yard. I went through. I mean, that yard would be really improved, and that garage. I mean, nobody should get in that garage. So I know they will just, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, the only concern I had is just the distance of that garage and how it affects the neighbor. But I think you will see that house, and you will see what I'm talking about. And otherwise. It's really modest, wonderful additions.
Commissioner Winnick?
I can support the modifications as well.
Okay, Commissioner Winnick.
I think I support the comments I've heard, and I can support the modifications.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, I agree with all those comments. I think one of the nice things is that this long concrete driveway is being replaced with a shorter strip driveway. that's appropriate to the neighborhood, and it will be an improvement. I think it's going to be very important to work with the neighbors about the wall in their garage and how that's going to be maintained, because it's right on the property line. So that's going to be significant. But generally speaking, I think it's a good addition.
Yeah, I just want to write on that comment because most likely you are going to have to provide, an overhang there, and how that will work right at the property line may be problematic. But in any case, you'll figure it out.
They won't have to put an overhang there. They can do it into a parapet.
They could, yeah, they could.
It slopes toward their property, so the drainage is solved.
True.
But there might be have to grant them an easement to maintain that wall.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
Well, there's a problem.
Commissioner Murray,
you're less than
or Drury. I'm sorry,
Drury.
Drury. I agree with the previous comments. I like this little house. Very good.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the commission? We still have to deal with the historic structures site report, so let's make a motion on that first.
I move that we accept the report with the understanding that the spatial relationship of that garage will be addressed in the report as well as in the plans to show that it will not have a negative impact on the front side of the neighboring building.
Second.
All right.
I don't need
motion.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, we had a motion by Murray and a second by Drury. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, now we need to do the project portion of this application. What is the pleasure of the commission? I think we could probably do PDA. That's about as far as we can get. Project design approval.
No, you have to continue it to the staff hearing officer.
Yeah.
You're right. Right. Okay.
So that means we need to make the...
Yeah.
What page should I turn to?
Oh, here. I have it right open there for you.
Okay,
right there.
Thank you. I make a motion for indefinite continuance to staff hearing officer with the support of the commission for the design and the modest addition to the property and maintenance of a rear yard. And support of the modification as being aesthetically appropriate and does not pose consistency issues with the following design guidelines. I guess the lot area modification is supportable in that it does not increase the floor area of the building or its impact on its adjoining property.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion by Lavoie, second by Drury. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
I've been trying
Motion carries. You understand the motion?
modify my voice so it sounds more like you.
I have you, Bill.
These comments and minutes
I wanna sound young.
will not be ratified until the next HLC meeting, so use the draft minutes at your own risk.
Right. Appealable.
We'll be back. Should we be agendized?
No. Yeah, that was a 2-week continuance or indefinite?
Oh, no, she has to go to the...
Yeah, it's indefinite.
to staff hearing
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's in there. Right.
Okay, yeah, so, you are listening to her, but...
Mine?
Yeah.
When are you going to?
Mine and I don't.
Terrific. For a few days?
All right, the next item on the agenda is item 7. Want to remind the commission and the subsequent applicants that we are a half hour behind. Item number 7 is for 9 West Figueroa Street. This is concept review. It's comments only. It's a proposal to upgrade the walking surfaces, landscaping, lighting, and receptacle closures to the City Parking Lot 3 Paseo. The applicant is requesting direction and comments from HLC prior to hiring a design team for the project. And just to disclose, I have had ex parte communications with the parking staff. That was probably 6 months ago. Please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Victor Garza, Downtown Parking Superintendent. I'd like to introduce Jessica Grant, Project Planner, that's going to introduce the project.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So, again, we're here today for Parking Lot 3, which is located at the corner of Figueroa and Chapala Streets. Again, this is the parking lot right here. This is the MTD Transit Center. Walter Claudio Salon is right here. And then this is the Paseo that we're talking about. And I think there's a bank located here, all those. This Paseo is approximately 20 feet by 115 feet. I'll bring it through in just a second. But really the purpose today, because we have not solicited proposals yet by architects, and so we're coming to the HLC just to provide some initial direction that we could incorporate when we do start negotiations with an architectural firm. We really have four main goals for this Paseo from the downtown parking standpoint. We want to increase security with lighting, and we also want to improve the cleanliness, attractiveness, and customer convenience. I just want to bring you through the existing Paseo of what it looks like.
Can we have City TV zoom in, please?
Zoom in.
Thank you.
All right, so this is as if you're walking along Figueroa Street and you're looking at the Paseo. You'll see that there's these two existing columns, and those columns repeat all throughout the Paseo. Right now, it used to be a trellis, but the trellis was in poor condition. We had to remove that probably a few years ago.
It was rotted.
This is as we walk down the Paseo. This is the mid portion of the Paseo. Vegetation is pretty sparse. There's a few trees there. We do have a lot of utilities that are underlying in this Paseo area. Again, with some of those columns. And then this is looking as if you're coming from the parking lot walking to Figueroa. And so there's existing trash enclosures, and then there's some that are spilling outside of the trash enclosures, such as grease traps and food scraps. And this is basically, again, from when you go from parking lot 3 to walk through the Paseo to Figueroa. And we can skip that picture. So as far as for security, we just want to improve the lighting. This is what the existing lighting looks like. We do not own either side or the buildings adjacent to the Paseo, so it would have to be some freestanding lighting that would be proposed. And we really want to have, when customers walk through the Paseo, one nice line of sight so they know that they're going to Figueroa Street onto State Street. As far as cleanliness, we did do a trash audit with environmental services, and we do need to expand the trash area there. Right now, there's trash enclosures on both sides of the Paseo. So you kind of feel absorbed by the trash cans, and we do need 2 4-yard dumpsters, some area for food scraps, and a grease trap, and we'd like to enclose all of that. One of the pictures that I have...
Let's stay on this one for a second, showing the trash.
Yeah, there's some, yes, existing roll-off bins, and then there was some in the prior picture that are in enclosures, but they're too small. And what we were thinking of... There's kind of a recent trash enclosure behind Handlebar Cafe, but in Sojourner, that's in EPV off of Canyon Perdido Street, and so we were thinking of maybe having the trash enclosures on one side of the Paseo, and kind of in this type of configuration. I don't think we could go to a full roof, but a trellis type roof is something we're opening to. There's windows on the adjacent buildings below. And so that's sort of setting the scene for the trash needs of the alley. And again, for attractiveness, we'd like to remove all of those existing columns. And as far as a surface for the paseo, we would like to remove the tile. It's a mixture of concrete and tile. And we wanted to get your thoughts about permeable pavers. That Creeks has had some successful projects, and these are a couple images of some pavers that they did at Oak Park and at Stevenson's Park, and wanted to get your thoughts if that's something that we could maybe look at for the paseo here. And again, for customer convenience, we'd like to have just a signage, wayfinding signage installed in the paseo as well. Is there anything I missed?
Why don't you talk about the trees?
As far as the tree, we're not really married to the existing landscaping, and wanted to get your thoughts if it's something that should we start with a complete clean slate, or should we enhance what's there? We do have some loitering around some of the existing planter boxes that we would like to discourage, but other than that, some initial feedback.
All right. I'll open public comment. I do not have any speaker slips, so I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions. Commissioner Drury, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do have off the top. That planter that extends into the paseo, that's on city property?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any plans on making that smaller?
We're open to anything at this time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you were saying the line of sight and, maybe eliminate, so it really looks like it's welcoming. It isn't really welcoming, even during the day.
Right.
Correct.
Correct. What's happening right now is the planters are being used as places to sleep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Mahan, any questions?
Yeah, this right beyond that planter, if you go to this picture here, which is a little bit better, there's a doorway. There's a doorway.
Picture.
What does that open up onto? There,
Here?
No, back.
This one.
There you go.
What is the back door of Walter Claudio?
Walter Claudio.
The occupant of this space
I
here?
don't think
It's just a window.
It's a window.
It's a window.
Yes, it's just a window.
It's a window on a property line, but I guess you can do that in a commercial zone, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's just a window. There really aren't any pedestrian openings on the paseo.
No, just windows.
There's some back doors to these buildings here.
Service
back doors.
Yeah, service
Yeah.
back doors, yeah.
Yeah, for Aldo's restaurant, there's a back door.
Russ's Camera used to have too. I don't think Russ's Camera is there anymore, but anyway, Commissioner Winnick, any questions?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the trash question, because I think basically the provision of putting the trash in the paseo is a convenience that the city is basically granting the owners along the way. I'm assuming, so I should ask that as a question. Do the owners have an easement, or is this just something the city is providing?
There was, we had to do a lot of records research for this, but in short, we'd reinitiate leases with a few. It's only a few of the businesses.
Going back, there were encroachment permits that were issued to the businesses so they could construct those trash enclosures in the paseo.
The reason why I'm asking is I know you mentioned that the city doesn't have the ability to put lighting on the walls, but I'm wondering if the city is providing trash enclosures for people for separate ownership, would not the city be able to have, let's say, a package deal that would say, let's go ahead and provide the trash enclosures, but while doing that, also come up with a strategy for the lighting, so you'd have one less obstruction walking down that paseo. That's just a
I think
thought.
we definitely could look into that if that's the commission's interest, to have the lighting on the walls instead of poles. We could definitely look into that.
I heard something was spoken about trying to limit the clutter. So anyway,
yes,
anyway, so
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Murray.
Yeah, I have a question about is that where it should be? Is there another place for it, or it has to be in the paseo?
The trash enclosure.
The trash enclosure. It's always bothered me because it's right next to this.
I wish it could just go away, but no. It seems to be that seems to be the place where it makes the most sense to handle it. And in working, like Jessica said, with the environmental services folks, it looks like there's enough wall space there for us to put another, or to extend the existing enclosure area so that it can all be handled in there. And the goal is not to have any containers within view.
Right, I see.
Just to sort of, go ahead.
So how does the truck come to pick up the trash? They come in through the parking lot?
Good question. They come up to the back of Walter Claudio. The workers come out and they pull the dumpsters out of the enclosure and they roll them down the concrete pad. And then the truck dumps them into the truck.
So they pull up right into this area here.
Yes.
And pick up the dumpsters from there.
And since while we're talking about that, we would propose that that area be paved with concrete.
Yeah, you wouldn't want these
No.
trucks on permeable pavers.
Good move.
To ride or to bounce off that question, have you looked at perhaps a location within the parking lot? You may have to lose a stall or two, but sort of away from the paseo. Paseos really should be for pedestrians, not for trash. Granted, a parking lot should be for cars, not trash. But there might be an opportunity to create something within the parking lot area, even if you have to lose a space. I don't know if that works with your parking program, but it would go, I think, a long way with the Historic Landmarks Commission if we could get that trash out of that paseo. I know it may not be as convenient for the occupants using that trash, but this is a public thoroughfare, public right-of-way, and trash doesn't really belong there. So I think it would be good if you could explore that for the Commission's sake.
We will.
Commissioner Lavoie.
The trash enclosure that you're showing us as a desirable one, does that meet the current handicap accessibility standard, which makes trash enclosures 5 times bigger than they ought to be? Editorial comment.
Yeah, no, it's
anything that we construct would have to be permitted through the building department, and they would require us to meet all the current ADA codes.
But do you know if this one does?
I don't know for sure, but I understand from the property manager that this is a recently constructed one. So my assumption is that it does, but I don't know that
New
for
law
sure.
about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think this was constructed within the last 3 years.
Yeah.
In fact, the last year, I think.
Yeah.
Pull the permit.
In front of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Rios, any
Questions have been answered.
Commissioner Ravena, any questions?
I just have questions on the paving, if it's appropriate now
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah, no.
Well, my feeling is that being in the proximity that it is to the city and so forth and downtown, I personally feel that this paving that you're proposing is not really adequate or
appropriate,
has enough sophistication for the area downtown. Realizing that it is permeable and I don't know how much rain is going to percolate through there, probably not very much. It's probably all going to go to one side or the other or downhill. So I'd like to have that examined a little bit more, if you would, please.
Okay.
Commissioner Schallenberger.
You may have said this in the presentation. If you did, forgive me, but are these existing pillars the remnants of a former trellis
Yes.
arbor? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I saw, in the agenda, the idea here was that the applicants were requesting direction and comments from HLC prior to hiring a design team. So, that's appreciated, obviously, that you would come in. But I guess I'm wondering, what do the guidelines and hiring a competent design team who understand those guidelines, and what isn't in the guidelines that you need to get here today, I guess, is the question.
Depending on what sort of guidance we're getting would then lead us to either hire a structural engineer, a civil engineer, just a regular architect, a landscape architect. Those are the kinds of options we'd be faced with, depending on what all of you ask us to look into.
Well, and you have to understand, though, that it is difficult for us to sort of design something. We are here in place to review something that's being presented to us. So I don't know that you're going to get really specific designed solutions from us today. I know you're not.
We've got some good stuff
We've already had good feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to get good
that being
feedback.
said.
Just let us start with comments, then you'll have your question answered, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Drury.
Yes. I guess the question about those pillars, are they going to be taken out?
Yes.
We would like to remove them.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
Take out the pillars. Well, I think the idea, if it's really going to be a paseo, as Commissioner Suding said, then make every effort to just eliminate what's not necessary. Like I would say, make that planter close to the wall, as long as it doesn't affect the tree, and take everything out possible so it really is a nice, open, and more inviting paseo. We have paseos at risk. The one between the Arlington alley all the way to Solo from Victoria Street I went by it the other day. It's just full of trash bins and debris. It's not acceptable. But thank you,
Commissioner Mahan. Any comments?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think of the El Paseo, which is our real paseo, totally open, and this ought to be totally open. Get rid of the trash bins. Get rid of the columns. Some landscaping would be okay because you got a lot of plumbing stuff here along the walls that needs to be maybe planted out. I like the idea very much of putting lights on the walls. But if you move the trash out into the parking lot, which is the right thing to do, you may not have that negotiating chip. So you have to do something else. But I think it should be very open and clean. And permeable paving is, in my estimation, is the wrong thing for El Pueblo Viejo. We have flagstone and brick, and those are our materials that are in our guidelines. You could do brick and sand, and I suppose that would be to some degree permeable, but I don't see this gray permeable stuff. It just doesn't fit Santa Barbara.
Okay. Commissioner Winnick, comments?
I think it's covered.
Okay. Good. Commissioner, what was that? Commissioner Murray.
The last shoe dropped.
I thought, I was like, what happened? I'm sorry, Commissioner Murray.
Yeah, I certainly would like to get rid of this, take that trash out of the paseo, and I really agree with all those comments. I think those people will really, it's to their interest to have lighting for them, for themselves. I think they would certainly go along because, you've got that, our great resource, the bank right there, which is kind of the corner of that paseo and the Figueroa. So it's a very important paseo. Right now, when you go to that parking lot, nobody ever uses a paseo. You go through the gate because this place is just ridiculous and not inviting, not a paseo at all. So that would certainly be my comment. I also think the planting, if you can get rid of all these curbs and so forth, but maybe like planter, what would you call them? Those big
grates.
Yeah, grates. Those big planters would go there. Would be nice. Thanks.
But no, not the raised planters.
Not the raised planters, but in pots.
I got you.
Big pots.
Commissioner Lavoie.
I greatly appreciate you coming here for design direction before you hire someone. Thank you. I thought we had approved a plan for this paseo years ago.
About 5 years ago when they took down the trellis.
Really? Yeah.
I don't
remember if we approved it or not.
No.
I
think Pete Allen was involved with it.
No, there was no plan. It was just removal of the trellis.
Was it? I thought there was a plan.
I thought there was a plan too, but okay.
I'm not sure we approved it. I like columns without anything on top of them, but not these ones.
Exactly.
So if you take these away, they're fine. The trash needs to go someplace else because you have the feeling that you're walking through the trash access and not a paseo. And even if you lose 3 parking spots and you create this thing out in the parking lot, I don't think the city will end because we lost 3 spots. It will gain a lovely experience. As much landscaping as you can put in here, both as a tree canopy or just a green experience, and perhaps it's how you get water into the soil. It would be desirable. the existing landscaping is probably maxed out anyway, and raised planters are problematic. So taking it down to the ground would probably be better. And opening up as much as you can and making it a pleasant pedestrian experience will encourage people to use this area.
Commissioner Rios?
I like the lights on the wall, and I would urge you to do a significant number so that the Paseo is well lit at night. If you can't move the trash out, then I think putting it on one side, as you're proposing with the covering, is good if you're not successful with the other. I believe that removing the columns is good. The question of permeable paving, instead of that, if you were to drain the walkway toward the planters, you could achieve maybe some significant watering that way. And I think that landscaping is very, very important, and I would really like to see it enhanced. But look into the possibility of using the runoff from into the planters as your water source for a start.
Commissioner Vena.
One last comment. If you passed by there, you really wouldn't know that you had anything, maybe even if you opened it up, but maybe it needs some kind of a sense of entry and with maybe some lighting to it so that people can see that it's a place to go through, or you can approach it as opposed to just passing by and you think you don't know where it belongs to or to whom it belongs. And I would like to, at least certainly from the street side as opposed to the parking in the back, but both sides might be
a kiosk of some sort, maybe even directory kind of thing. Commissioner Schomburger.
Yeah, it seems that the key fundamental question, for whatever program that's developed is it an alley or is it a paseo? I mean, I understand that it's serving as sort of both at this point. And, alleys are for back of house. That's what they do. They serve building back of house. So, and I don't know historically if this was an alley that sort of became a paseo at some point.
In the circulation plan, this is identified as a paseo.
Okay, well that answers that. Yeah. So then if that's the case, then you're into an aesthetic program, and obviously we want to see the most aesthetically pleasing brick, flagstone, everything that's in the guidelines. So yeah, again, it's appreciated that you're here. Thank you.
With respect to the existing trees, I think it's important to have some skyline established there, especially since the back of that bank building is, pretty tall. I recognize, though, that having a raised planter with the tree crown, up that high off of your ground plane isn't going to necessarily work. So I think you want to be selective in your tree removals. I could see, though, this paseo having sort of more pedestrian or more human scale plantings happening in it, and there's several ways to achieve that. With respect to permeability, I'm certainly not in favor of these type of pavers in an urban setting. I think it's okay in this sort of more sylvan or park setting. And there are clever ways to get the infiltration that you are required to have, and oftentimes it's not the whole shot. Maybe it's just a portion cleverly designed that doesn't look like, oh well, here's our infiltration and this is how we solve that. But there are artistic and clever ways to design. So I think you've gotten some good direction from us.
Mr. Chair, I have one more comment.
Mr. Mahan.
These bollards need to be traditional bollards,
Yes.
and every time you have a door that opens onto the paseo, there should be a
light.
But there should be an approved light.
Yeah.
Not that light. So anytime there's any of these doors here, these people are required to have a light by the door, and that's the way we can get wall lighting on there, and they would have to pay for the electricity.
Well, and even if you do move the trash to the parking lot, that's still a benefit to them. They are not having to provide the trash on their property, so you could still use that as a bargaining chip
I think
for
so. Right.
the,
Right.
yeah, I'm not going to belabor that. So there you go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I am going to suggest that we take a short break. Is that okay with the commission?
Yes.
Okay. We will reconvene at 4:15, starting with item 8, which is 1220 Chapala Street.
I get to keep that too.
In the meantime, as a side
Okay,
job.
I will reconvene the June 17th meeting of the Historic Landmarks Commission. Next item on the agenda is item 8, and this is for 1220 Chapala Street. This is a proposal to realign the existing sidewalk curves and gutters to improve the pedestrian right-of-way and create the future potential for outside dining. New landscaping will be installed in the parkway, and Victoria Street will be restriped to accommodate the new right-of-way improvements. The project also includes the following improvements to City Parking Lot 5: replacement of existing landscape with xeriscaping, removal of 6 London plane trees to be replaced with 3 paper bark trees, 4 Jerusalem thorn trees, and 2 queen palms, and new hoop-style bicycle racks. 1 15-minute parking space on Victoria Street will be removed. This is conceptual review. Action can be taken if sufficient information is provided. Project requires Tier 3 stormwater management program compliance. And in full disclosure, I did meet with parking staff and the landscape architect about 3 months ago maybe, and talked to them about this project. All right, please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Chair. I'm Terry Green, and I'm with Downtown Parking in the Public Works Division of the City of Santa Barbara. Thank you. Is it on?
Oh, it is.
Thank you. I have a team of city staff working on this project with me: Victor Garza, who's the parking superintendent; Dion Tate, the parking supervisor; Derek Bailey, supervising transportation engineer; Jessica Grant, project planner; Laura Yanez, project engineer; and then I also have Martha with me from Arcadia Studio as the landscape architect. So that's our project team. Back in August of 2012, this commission approved a project to remove and replace the existing, or it's currently a temporary kiosk, and replace it with a permanent kiosk. And at that time, you guys also approved us to convert what was formerly the entry to that lot into a permanent exit at that location. So it's been functioning with a temporary kiosk as a permanent exit currently for some time now. And at that time, you also saw some landscape plans for the west side of the exit lane. As a result of the new development in the area, as well as the civil changes done by the new Vic Theater, the exit lane kind of appears to be a bit unfinished. And for the last few years, we've noticed some safety concerns with the use of that exit lane as a common U-turn area for cars wanting to park heading eastbound onto Victoria Street, and so there's a lot of interface with pedestrians and cars not using it for the right purposes. So for that reason, the project's before you today, and the goals of the project are to increase the safety in the area. There's some photos that I shot today that show the corner of the Ole Limon restaurant, and it's been clipped on multiple occasions, their gutter, by delivery trucks who consistently use that as a turnaround. And then just some shots of a car today actually doing a U-turn while I was out there taking those photos. So so we want to increase the safety in the area, provide a better...
your truck, Bill?
It's not your truck. It's your truck.
So provide a better pedestrian experience, and I'll walk you through that when we go through the project. Some additional bicycle parking, and then some drought-tolerant landscaping, which currently isn't existing today. So... if we want to flip to the site plan.
Let me just get this up on screen for a little while longer. So people watching television can familiarize themselves. Okay.
Okay.
So page 2
yes.
of 7?
Yeah, 2 of 7 is the site plan. And so I'll just quickly walk you through kind of the scope of work, and if you have any questions, anyone on our team can be available to answer them. So starting on the west side of the exit lane, which is where the permanent kiosk will be located, we are proposing to provide an accessible path of travel with a ramp into the parking lot. We don't have a ramp there currently, so that's part of it. Given the fact that this was formerly an entry into the lot, the curb alignment has caused some concern for traveling here for the cars, and so we're just going to soften that up and realign the curb to allow it to function better as an exit only. We're proposing to do a 7 by 15 square foot pad for 5 hoop bicycle parking stalls, which will mirror what we have on the east side of the exit lane. And they're highly used, so they're always very busy, so we think that'll be a good addition to the area. The kiosk, again, is under a separate permit. And then over in the front part of the west side, right now, this is just kind of dirt and it's not landscape, so we're going to increase landscape opportunity at this front area, and we are going to raise the sidewalk all the way across so that it's actually a car that's crossing over a sidewalk, not a pedestrian walking through a driveway. Similar to Granada Garage, if you're familiar with that. It really gives, the right-of-way to the pedestrian. So that'll be raised. The ramp that's out there right now will be removed and replaced with a level sidewalk. So that's the west side. And then we're going to be doing a more narrow driveway apron to kind of minimize the opportunity for turning around that location. On the east side, we are proposing to align the curb all the way across, linear with what's in front of the new Vic. With that, it will result in the loss of one 15-minute parking spot in front of Ole Limon on-street parking spot. But we are looking forward to some new landscape opportunities in front with 2 parkway trees being introduced, and Martha will walk you through that later. As you go down into the parking lot on the east side, you'll see that we've increased the sidewalk area by a width of 5 feet. And that's coming at the request of Ole Limon. They really want the opportunity for outdoor dining, and because we're doing a bunch of work in the area, they've asked that we present that to the commission. As staff, we're looking for opportunities to work with them. And so we originally had this at a 6-foot width to provide to meet some requirements of transportation planning. And when we met out there, Mr. Suding asked that we minimize the hardscape as much as we possibly can. So we've reduced this width to a width of 5 feet, which is the absolute minimum that we can to allow for the path of travel for pedestrians and then any future outdoor dining opportunity that Ole Limon would like to bring forward to the city. Their outdoor dining is not a part of our project. It would just be the opening and making an opportunity for that at a future date if they choose to do that. So again, the minimal impacts that we see from this project are the loss of a 15-minute parking space on street, and we are losing 208 square feet of landscaping, half of which is coming from the bicycle parking pad. The benefits of the project is that we are creating a greater opportunity for safety for both pedestrians and vehicles out there. We're providing a better line of sight for the exiting vehicles from eastbound traffic on Victoria Street, and then of course, as I mentioned, just the right of way to the pedestrian over the driveway. We are going to be increasing the amount of bicycle parking that we need out there. The city receives multiple requests from bikers, especially due to the public marketplace, to just have additional bike parking in the area. And then we are providing an opportunity for some additional street trees over here, and then providing drought-tolerant landscaping, which we currently don't have in the location right now. So I think that sums up my presentation, and our project team is here to answer any questions.
Ms. DeGrazis, did you want to present?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Martha wanted. Here, let me switch these with you.
You have the talking stick.
I have got the stick. Let's see what order this is in. Let's go back here. So as Ms. Green indicated, we're removing the London plane trees that are in this planter here and one here because as you might have noticed, they're prone to disease and so on, and they're not in good condition at this time. So what we're proposing is to add the paper bark tree for a skyline effect. It'll get rather tall and narrow, and then some Jerusalem thorn or Parkinsonia trees for a lower flowering canopy, both evergreen, in this area. So you can see bear with me please, the Jerusalem thorn here, here, and here, and then the Melaleuca or the paper bark tree sort of in the corner as a trio.
Actually, this one's the Parkinsonia. is your Melaleuca here, Melaleuca here, Melaleuca
And Melaleuca here.
So triad there.
Yeah.
The rest of them
So,
are Parkinsonian.
thanks. My eyes, not what they were. So the Melaleuca tree, or the tall paperbark tree, on this side at the pedestrian passage area is going to be in a half tree grate, so we'll have a greater opportunity to pass by there without hazard. In the broad planting area surrounding the kiosk, we have a combination of bird of paradise for a tall planting, the ground cover natal plum, and a type of low-growing aloe, so that'll have some color in the winter, groupings of that, and similar across. Separating the sidewalk from the drive lane, we've got a type of India hawthorn or yellow hawthorn. It's the same planting that we have along the front of the Victoria Street Theater between the traveled way and the sidewalk. And then finally at the Parkway, in front of the restaurant, we have 2 queen palms, and that reflects the queen palms that we have in front of the Victoria Street Theater as a designated street tree.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
It does conclude my presentation.
Okay, I will open public comment. I have one speaker slip from Mr. Callum DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
I have some comments here. I hate to see the trees removed, the London plane trees. I guess being London plane trees, they're not getting enough water, but it would be they should be probably removed at the last minute because they're providing trees where it would take a while to grow the new ones. So does the removal of the 15-minute parking place mean now there's going to be no parking on Victoria Street at all, but between Chapala and
Victoria?
I mean, on Victoria Street between Chapala and State Street.
Just remove all the parking then.
Will there still be any parking on that side of the street? And I think the kiosk really needs to be part of the project because it certainly needs to fit into the landscaping and the
water.
What is being proposed in this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I'll close public comment. Bring it to the commission. Commissioner Drury, do you have any questions?
I do. I just want to make a disclaimer. That's not my truck. But that's the problem, right? Is that because there's a handicap ramp on one side and a handicap ramp on the other, and there's just a big area, so people are just utilizing. But delivery trucks are the real problem, right? They're the ones that are causing the damage to the roof. So in this picture, there's a white Jeep, and I'm assuming that's the 15-minute slot that will be eliminated.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Mayhem?
Yeah, there's right in that same picture there's the pilaster with the green sign on it that says parking lot number 5. Is that going to be removed?
Yes.
Good.
Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, I just want to know, I know that you're talking about it'll be coming in as a later project, the hardscape area that's at Oleo Limone, which is now on the other side of your new proposed walkway. What's the treatment of that being proposed in the meantime? Is it just being left out as concrete?
I'm sorry, I'm not following you on that.
Okay, so maybe it shows on the landscape plan. You're providing a new treatment of walkway here, but there's this leftover zone which was formerly where the walkway was, let's say, which is at Oleo Limone.
Right.
I'm just wondering what treatment of that. I know you're saying they want to come in with a future project, but say they don't. What's the treatment of that?
The treatment will match. Will match. So are we going to pull it all out? The sidewalk that fronts, it's currently concrete. So are we going to just match it up, or it'll stay the same?
I guess to maybe further Commissioner Winnick's question, what becomes of that widened sidewalk if there is no outdoor dining? It's just a super wide sidewalk?
It would be a wide sidewalk, yes, but we do know that they have plans to come in for it. They've worked pretty extensively with us to figure out how they can configure tables out there, and that's why we've put the energy into the project. So I definitely wouldn't question whether it would be coming or not. I know they'll be doing it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Murray, no questions. Commissioner Lavoie, any questions?
Yeah. A non-aesthetic issue. The property owner will be leasing this sidewalk?
Yes, they would enter an agreement with the city like everybody else does for outdoor dining.
Okay. And you really think this is going to keep people from being stupid and trying to make U-turns mid-block?
We hope so. I mean, we've actually painted it out there on the street. We've been out and done some painting, and you can see what they'd be running over in the event that they attempt to maneuver their automobiles that way. So,
yeah. Stop them.
Yes.
Okay. No other questions?
Any questions?
Yes. Are the London plane trees in the situation they are because of lack of water?
The species of tree tends to have a multiple pest problems, mostly fungal. And so if you look up, you notice that they, several times of the year, unless they're not in leaf, their leaves are crumpled and white, and they're just, it's a problematic species. We don't use it too much anymore. And so we're just opting for something that's more drought tolerant, less maintenance intensive, won't require spraying, and will offer a little bit of texture and color to the lot.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I think in the city of New York, they prohibit them from being planted now because of their litter.
They just need more heat, too.
Yeah. Commissioner Vena.
I have several things. First of all, on the sidewalk area that you're expanding, it seems like in many cases you're adding this well-intendedly, however it becomes patchwork once again, and there's no continuity or cohesion to the whole thing. So I'm more inclined, if you're going to spend the money to do what you're going to do and make it a nice entry and so on, rip the whole thing out and make it cohesive so that it has some attraction as opposed to another patch job here in town. I'm also looking at the quantity of plants along there that you're proposing. It seems like there's quite a few at this point in time that might be reconsidered. The trees that you mentioned, the melaleucas or the paperbark trees, I'm concerned about the height, so you lose the proportion between the lower buildings or the buildings that are in the area there, and the tree will push on up. And since the park department or the street tree department only does pruning jobs they do 10-year jobs, 10-year prunings, that means that they're not going to be tended to as they should to stay in scale with the buildings. So I'm looking at that you might study another possibility as far as trees go. Thank you.
Okay, that was supposed to be phrased in the form of a question, but
I'm wondering what they're going to do about it. You don't have to get back to me again.
Commissioner Schallenberger. Questions?
Just to follow up on Mr. DeForest's inquiry, why not have the kiosk as part of this and have one permit? And I know that there's a separate MST, but why not going forward just combine the two?
The kiosk project, when it originally came to this commission, was it did not include any public right-of-way improvements, and so we worked with planning division staff to figure out what the best approach would be, and they felt that bringing it in as a separate application was the best approach.
To write off that question real quick, when is the kiosk scheduled to go in? Because it's been several years now after completion of the VIC. I think this commission was under the impression and the understanding that kiosk, that temporary kiosk, would be replaced with a permanent one as soon as the VIC was done. So when is that kiosk going to go in the screen?
Can I defer that to Mr. Garza, please?
When funding's available.
Sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner Schallenberger, but I thought it was a good segue.
Part of what we're,
we need to know when that kiosk is going in, because it's been an awful long time that we've dealt with that temporary plywood structure.
That's right. Originally, the intent was that the kiosk project, all the improvements were going to be done as a part of the new VIC restoration project. Because of contracting code and other legal issues, we had to split them out. And so all I can tell you at this point is that as soon as we get approval to move ahead, we will order the kiosk. I don't have any problem with us coming back and having all of you look at it again to make sure we're still on the same page.
So you
approved, right?
It is
Yes,
approved.
but
yes.
I mean, just to refresh everybody's,
but so you don't have any idea of a timeline as to when that's going to be put in?
It's going to be dependent on how we move ahead with this.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. If that, sorry, if I missed.
All right.
It'll be built with this
Schellenberger.
project.
Sorry to have interrupted you.
So wondering on the limits of the sidewalk construction, not so much in the quote-unquote paseo, but at the street, are those limits fixed, or is there any adjustment available to those limits? And then I'll go into a comment after. But are there any restrictions on the limits of those?
Well, I mean, I can speak to the fact, I can bring Laura up to our project engineer, but the idea is to keep it completely in line with what's in front of the new Vic, to allow the sidewalk to be raised and have that, the pedestrian path of travel, and then mirror what's on that side, curving it in just at the east side of the Ole Limon restaurant to tie back in with the existing curb line. So if you want a little more detail on that, I can call our project engineer up.
Go ahead.
So on sheet 2 of this, the front, this is sort of, you'll see what I'm getting at here.
Oops.
On the south end of the sidewalk on the street, at the street.
Here?
Yeah. You'll see that weak little corner there, the weak little return, the thin.
Here?
I just think that you're going to want to bring that back to a logical, even on a joint that's going to look weak.
Sure.
I think you want to bring that back to get some more meat in there to the next control joint. Or
we agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just where the old project went up to.
Right, right.
But it'll be a full panel.
Okay.
Commissioner Vena, any comments? Any more comments?
No, I think I made my statement.
Commissioner Arias, any
Not
comments?
at this time.
Commissioner Lavoie.
Generally I'm supportive, but the speaking to Mr. Vanya's comment, I would like it better if the sidewalk was the sidewalk and the restaurant patio was perhaps a different texture or color or some differentiation between what that line was. And I would like the walkway that goes back into the parking lot.
Here or here?
There. If that was less, if it looked less like a civil engineer did it and more like a landscape architect did it, I mean, the right side of it, the south side of it, is really an awkward geometry. If it just gradually sort of flowed back in on, an S-curve, but an attenuated S-curve would look more natural a transition than, a right turn, left turn, right turn.
Even
in military drill, that line right there. In fact, if the get my directions right, west side of that walkway had a more natural form, I think it'd be more compatible with the landscape than just this straight line.
We hear you.
Okay.
In all deference to civil engineers, but
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Commissioner Murray.
I have nothing to add, but I agree with concur with those.
Commissioner Winnick.
I get the stick. I think I agree with all the comments, except I don't think I heard. I think Commissioner Lavoie and I heard something different from Commissioner Vania. I was hearing from Commissioner Vania that the sidewalk that would be shared with the restaurant and then also this new pathway would all be urging it to look uniform and be consistent, which I think I actually am in favor of that. At least that's what I'm hearing. I actually don't like showing a differentiation of where the restaurant is until they, they'll probably have their own little way of doing that with planters.
Bollards or something.
Yeah, but I actually think it's better if the whole thing just looks uniformed and it's it's part of the city, and it just happens that there happens to be street tables out there. And anyway, in general, I support the other comments that I've heard and support the project.
Commissioner Mahan.
I agree with those comments. When you're in parking lot number 5, like if you come out of the little post office there, or you're walking from the parking lot to the post office, there's the wonderful vista of the Arlington Tower and the Arlington, and also the new building that Brian Cornell designed, which really sets off the Arlington, I believe, beautifully. And so I'm concerned about this planting, that it enhances that view rather than diminishes it. Melaleucas, I'm not a landscape architect, but I think of them as being a big dense tree, and I'm wondering if that's really the right. These sycamores are, I think they're sycamore plain.
London plain.
They're fairly open, and maybe because they're sickly, you can see through them. But but I think that I would like you to reconsider the landscaping there, and I would like to see a perspective from the parking lot looking toward the Arlington Theater to see what we're going to get in 10 years. What is the view? Is the landscaping going to enhance that view, or is it going to diminish it? That's very important, I believe. If this was a private project, we wouldn't allow you guys to go forward without knowing what that kiosk is going to look like. This is piecemealing.
We do know what the kiosk looks like.
You know what it looks like?
We approved it.
They just haven't built it.
Correct.
I guess that happened before I came on the board.
Yep. Yeah. Some things did happen before you came.
I would just bring a picture next time.
Yeah,
we don't need to reapprove it.
I think we should see that, see how it fits in, and definitely we don't want this joint here and new sidewalk, new fresh concrete and old beat up concrete. That's just wrong. But I think that what you're doing here with the pedestrians, getting them up at sidewalk level and making the cars come over the hump, that is absolutely the right way to do it. And I can support losing 1 15-minute stall to make that sidewalk.
Yeah, in all fairness to the applicant and the landscape architect, when I did meet with them those few months ago, I did say that the commission would probably be very much in favor of significant tree canopy in there. But I appreciate your point, and I didn't really think about that when I was out at the site because we didn't walk around that much. But I think the landscape architect can come up with other trees that are sort of lacy or transparent, or that would sort of frame that view of the Arlington Tower, because that is an extremely important view. It's a wayfinding method or mechanism too. Yeah. So it's important. We don't want to lose that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that comment, but I do want to sort of I guess CYA that I did tell the landscape architect to add. That's all right, Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I have 2 questions that I wrote down. I forgot to ask. That parking lot number 5. That's the only exit.
No.
I'm sorry. We do have one on Chapala, and then this is an exit only though. The Chapala Street is entry exit.
I've only lived for a couple of years, so I can't really. And was the I can't read my own writing. Wait a minute. Oh yes, was the exit widened when you made when the project began? I was involved, but I don't remember if it's the same width going out onto Victoria Street.
It's the same drive.
It's essentially the same.
It used to be an entrance.
It's essentially the same. It used to be an entrance.
Yes.
It used to be an entrance.
Yeah. Okay. I guess then my comments are that I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Mahan about the need to make that. We just dealt with a paseo an item or so ago, and I think that this is a visual paseo. And I think it's really important that elevation. We worked very hard on the Alma del Pueblo and how it fits with the Arlington. And I think that I think it was Commissioner Avena who said, that if everything was equal, we could just wipe everything out and start over again. It looks really piecemeal on the plans. And I think that if the less piecemeal it can be made to look, the sidewalks all the same texture, everything done to make it visually quiet so that what's actually either going toward Anacapa or going up toward Arlington is not interfered with visually.
Okay.
And I do think we need to see the kiosk, the plan of the kiosk.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Anybody? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I'll withdraw my comment about differentiating the pavement.
Okay. So, Ms. Flemings, you got that. There should be no differentiation in the eastern sidewalk material.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vena.
maybe I missed it. Do we have a lighting plan, a new proposed lighting for pedestrians and so forth incorporated?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vena, we actually have a lighting plan that is going out to bid within the next couple weeks for the entire parking lot. We're removing and replacing the existing light poles with an HLC designed fixture, and that project is a separate project on its own. There is a light fixture that fronts Victoria Street on the west side of the driveway, and that is part of the lighting project.
And that's the extent of it.
The entire parking lot
Yes,
is
but I mean, within this area of development.
There is another light on the east side, kind of down towards the bicycle parking. And,
right in here somewhere,
and
I think, isn't it?
on the east side, on the, over in that area.
So let me ask this question. So if the restaurant was shut down, there was no ambient light coming from the facility itself, the pedestrians would basically be subjected to one light post that would be giving them light for access, for safety, and so on?
We do have a photometric study, and that study is specifically for lights that we own, and so it meets all photometric requirements for pedestrian and parking lot lighting.
So I assume that you'll be bringing that lighting plan before the commission.
It already came and it's been approved. Yeah, it was actually on the consent calendar. Mm-hmm.
I was looking for some more intimate light within that area that would guide them towards the parking lot in the evening, at night, because you have entertainment going on at the Vic and other places, and I think that you're going to be needing more lighting for the elderly. I'll speak for myself and others and so forth. So I was just wondering whether or not you had considered that.
It's not a part of the project right now, but we'll consider it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, what is the pleasure of the commission? The project can get project design approval. I don't think it's quite ready for final approval, but if somebody wants to make a motion, I'll entertain that.
I was under the impression that we would review this again. It would come back.
Mm-hmm. We can continue it indefinitely or 2 weeks, or we can give it project design approval if we feel it's ready at this level. I mean, I don't think that there are any geometry changes to it. It's to a level that it could be conceptually approved or project design approved. So, but that's up to the commission.
With conceptual approval, would we be approving the planning as proposed, or is that still in question?
No, that's still in question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's still in development with our comments.
I see.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion for a 2-week continuance, but it's I don't think it's necessary to see the engineered plans again at the next meeting. But if the landscape plans reflected our change, work together to get to a solution. But if the landscape plans showed our input, that would be sufficient to give project design approval for both parts of it, and perhaps final.
Okay, so that was a 2-week continuance.
2-week continuance.
Is there a second
for you?
Anybody? Second by Murray. Under discussion, is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I think Commissioner Mahan suggested something like some sort of a computer mock-up of the view toward the Arlington.
Right, I think Ms. Fleming's got that in her her comments, that we want to see a simulation of the view from the south end of the exit lane towards the Arlington Tower.
Yeah.
The kiosk, include the kiosk.
Yeah, they know that, and that's part of the comments. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can take the mini back.
Almost done.
You get it?
Next item on the agenda is item number 9, and it is for 202 West Cabrillo Boulevard. This is a proposal to add new post lanterns in the patio of Building 5 and decorative outdoor LED string lights above 4 patio areas at Buildings 2, 3, 4, and 6 for the existing Hotel Milo. All lighting will be affixed to existing building elements and connected to existing existing electrical service for each building. They're contributing resources to the potential West Beach Historic District on site. Action can be taken if sufficient information is provided. The last time this project was reviewed was on June 3rd, and the motion was to restudy a more traditional lighting method and fixture. Strung lights would not be acceptable for this use in this location. Please.
Yes, good afternoon.
For the record.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, board members. My name is Rogelio Solis. I'm with Cornell Angelitis, the applicant, on behalf also of the owner for Hotel Milo. So I'd like to present the patios in one order, and as we speak, I'll show the images and our revised layout. So we'll start, if you see at the master site plan on sheet A100, we'll start with patio 4, which is between 5 and 6, and then patio 3, which is in building 5, then patio 2, which is in building 3, and then patio 1, which is the lobby.
It's getting more confusing.
Okay. So for patio, one of the strongest feedback that I had, a comment from last hearing, if you recall, was that string lighting is not typically used for outdoor eating, dining areas. So we did consider that, and we proposed a change, and I provided some copies of the cut sheet. We're proposing lanterns on posts. Which the pole will be 10 feet high with the fixture. The overall bulk is 10 feet high. So I'll start. This is our original proposed 2 weeks ago, which is building 6, patio on building 6. So we revised it just to include series 2 rows of 3 lanterns on posts on each side. Then we go to building 5, which is patio 3. This was original proposed lighting. We had a series of string lights, pretty much a lot of them. So we revised it to include 2 rows of 7 lanterns on post total for this area. So one row will be adjacent to the walkway that leads into these rooms. And just so you're familiar to this area, we have a series of eaves. We thought about using sconces, wall-mounted sconces, and I can actually go through that real quick. So here, this is the patio for building 6. And you can see we have overhang eaves on both conditions there. So wall-mounted fixtures doesn't really work for our conditions. So lighting post is pretty much the better solution for this area there. For building 5, the one I just presented right now, here's the view coming from Cabrillo, going from south to north. This is a front view from the other side of Cabrillo Street looking towards our patio. So there's a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees. So these lanterns will be pretty much hidden behind the vegetation. So even though it's 7, they're pretty much going to be hidden. So you have to be there. Okay? So going down to building 3, and you might think I'm a little bit obsessed with string lighting. I brought a series I did some precedent studies as Commissioner Suding requested, just to show some examples of the lighting there, and actually they're around the area. So yes, it was hard for me to find out string lighting for non-outdoor eating areas. So the difference between these 2 patios to the previous ones is that these are hardscape. This one particularly has a 7-foot high wall, pretty much from building to building. And here's that view across from Cabrillo Street. So street lighting literally is going to be screened at this area. We propose that, we're proposing to have string lighting, hopefully get it approved. This building specifically here serves breakfast during the mornings, and in the afternoons we get drinks and stuff like that. So this is an outdoor dining area. And also, we have currently an application which is about to get permitted for outdoor seating and dining area on this front side of the Cabrillo Boulevard. So this is a separate application, and we see that one of the issues was the visibility, so we don't have that there with that. And the last one is lobby for building 2. So I took a series of images pretty much throughout Ambassador Park.
Ambassador Park's a landmark, is it?
So this is mostly an outdoor area that's for the park rather than for the Cabrillo. We have a 40-foot, 7-inch setback. Pretty much, we're behind that much, and we're only proposing 3 strings of lighting there. Currently, and I don't know, probably the picture is somewhere, we have outdoor sitting area with umbrellas, and this a lounge part of the lobby. People gather around there. They get breakfast too, and then the coffee in the morning, and then refreshments during the evening. So people wander this area, and they kind of come outside. So this is mostly like a circulation, like kind of a semi-public area rather than something private. So this is a discussion we had with our client, and they did want to pursue to the most extent possible, but we're open to comments, of course.
That concludes your presentation.
Yes.
All right, I will open public comment. I don't have any speaker slips, so I'll close public comment, bring it to the commission. Commissioner Schomburg, do you have any questions? No. Commissioner Vena? No. Commissioner Arias?
What is the intensity of the light?
It's for the light, the lanterns on post. They're
The string lighting.
For the string lighting, it's 6,500K.
6,500K.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lavoie?
This is, I guess, a question of staff. Are any of these examples permitted? They aren't, to my knowledge.
I would have to follow up on that.
Would you please? And file violations for those that aren't?
Thank you. Commissioner Murray?
I'm trying to understand, is this an example of the pole and the...
No, not specifically an example. This is the profile. This one comes with spikes. There's like 2 models. This simple model here that's just without the spikes, and then one included with the spikes. I couldn't find the one with just a single pole anywhere. Even the manufacturer can provide that. That's
the single one we are on the pole. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So he's not proposing double.
No, that was just to visually show a colored image.
Okay. Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, I just want to ask, so this is the string lighting that's being proposed, which is this LED lights?
Yes.
I'm curious to know why you are looking at 6,500K. Like, why that color temperature?
Well, this is more a feedback from the electrical engineer, and we're working with the client in terms of they wanted to have a warmth color to it, and especially the area thought was for this openness.
Right, you answered my question.
Yes.
6,500K, I know this isn't comments yet, is extremely white. It's more like if you were down to 2,400K would be a much warmer, more yellow light,
Right.
just so you know. So 6,500 couldn't be whiter and bluer if you tried. So that's like totally daylight. It's not the kind of light you'd look at in the evening. Okay. I'll save comments for later. I just didn't get that part. Thanks.
Commissioner Mahan?
Are these what the lights look like? These pictures?
There's one specific image where the lights look like if you look at it's the image with the trellis.
I mean, these all hang down, and these are drawn shooting up.
That's the one that Commissioner Jury has. That's an example of the
That's a warm
actual
level.
string lighting. Yeah. That was used at 5 points.
They're pointed down. The bulbs are pointed down, and here they're pointed up.
I think it is detailed.
It's just the cut sheet.
It's just the way
it's just the way it's drawn. They do point down.
That's the actual.
They do point down. It's just the cut sheet is showing it this way.
The draftsman was just upside down.
It's what they get from the
So
manufacturer.
these are appropriate. And there's a dimension here. It says 236. Like, it's so small I can't read it. What is it? That 2.36 inches?
That's the diameter of the globe.
Of the bulb. Approximately 2.5 inches. And the color of the lamp posts?
The lamppost, that's, I believe, 4,000 K.
No, the color.
Oh, the color would be white.
The lamp posts will be white?
Oh, the post would be actually it'd be painted green, the Malaga green. Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Drury, any questions?
I have no questions.
One question. It looks like you don't need to use the string lighting mount with a steel post anymore, because it looks like you could be mounting to the building. And this looks like it's sufficient or low enough distance that you can do it without the pole.
That is correct.
So you're not using this detail.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
what are you using to suspend the lights? Are you attaching them to aircraft cable?
No, they're going to be mounted directly to the walls with these bolted rings.
Okay, but to suspend them across, is there going to be an aircraft cable and then you're going to attach it? So it's just going to be a string light, and it's going to develop its catenary curve as okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Commissioner Schellenberger? Comments? Commissioner Vena?
No comment.
Commissioner Rios?
I am concerned that I appreciate that they've moved towards some lights that are acceptable in El Pueblo Viejo. However, the string lights I still cannot support. I think this sets a precedent, and I don't think that is the best interest of this area.
All right, Commissioner Lavoie?
Could you put up a picture of the buildings from Cabrillo Boulevard? One of the buildings is fine.
Okay, so this is building 6.
That's fine.
City TV, if you could, thank you.
The buildings, all of them in this side of Cabrillo Boulevard, are very rustic Hispanic buildings. The light fixture you've chosen would be perfectly lovely in front of a neoclassical building if it had a decorated post. So the post design is inappropriate in the district. The lamp design is inappropriate to the architecture. And there's far too many of them proposed for any one of the locations. And I cannot support the string lights nor the posts that they're to be placed on.
He's not being used anymore.
Not using those.
Not
Thank
using that
God. No, the string lights are not appropriate in this location.
Commissioner Murray?
I agree with those comments from Billboard because it's not all everything said about the building. This is facing Cabrillo, and Cabrillo is a landmark itself, and so it's also protecting the site and the feeling of the boulevard, and also the string light that is going to be towards the Ambassador Park. That is not a good idea. So there are just too many lights. They need lights. I need some, definitely need some, but I just think it's a little overkill.
Commissioner Winnick?
Well, I'm looking at this photograph that Commissioner Mann has in his hand, and I guess this illustrates the problem of why we can't say yes to the string lights, because, I mean, when you start seeing how inappropriately they get used. I don't know if that's what you're going to say, but that's what my impression is when I'm looking at that photograph. And obviously, we don't want to go down that path, so I think it's better to come up with a different solution.
Where is this, by the way?
That's probably the restaurant in the Pikert building. The
Which one?
Chapala
Casablanca?
one.
Casablanca?
This is Silver Green.
Silver Green.
Silver Green.
Yeah, right across.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, give that back to you if you'd like.
I'm not hearing from the commission, I'm not hearing support for the string lighting, so I guess it doesn't matter to talk about the intensity of the bulb. But if we're going to approve some string lighting, maybe not so many on center, the intensity would be an issue that I think we have to understand better. And I think this is more the style of lighting that fits the architecture.
Right.
Rustic sort of.
Yeah.
Rather than these poles.
Obviously you're not mounting
these poles which look more. They're very urban and.
This is very.
They look like they're
refined
from London or Paris or someplace like that. So.
Or even simpler.
But personally, I could support some kind of string lighting. I think these are there's too many, too much. But if they were, if it's how many of them are on center that makes a difference to me, rather than it's.
Have you picked your on center spacing?
Yes, it's 18 inches on center.
Okay.
What are these are what?
They vary.
No, this says P. It doesn't give a dimension.
Down in the chart it does, but he hasn't.
It's so
he
small.
hasn't identified that on the plan, but he's saying now that it's 18.
Yes, and actually I do have a note on the plans where it
Okay,
says
you have that 18.
yes.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Drury.
I think that the poles need to be simplified and the fixtures themselves need to be greatly simplified. They're a little bit flamboyant. And I think that Commissioner Suding when he was asking about airplane cable, is that what you said? Was that what
Aircraft cable.
Aircraft cable. That's to make it linear as opposed to sagging. I think one of the things about string lighting is how god-awful it looks during the day. And we've seen plenty of examples that you brought in yourself about how it's a mess. And I think that it detracts from the architecture that it's supposed to illuminate. So I would not be supportive of string lighting.
I guess I'm the only commissioner that that appreciates the diminishment of the amount of string lighting you have proposed. I could. I think support it in the locations where you're proposing it, which is here at Building 3 and here at Building 2. It's it's going to be visible from the public right away here. That 7-foot wall isn't quite enough to screen it out. This is going to be visible also from this perspective, but it is set back considerably. So I'm just saying I'm probably the only commissioner that can support the string lighting.
Mr. Chair, I said I could support some kind of string lighting, but not.
But I do appreciate the way you reduce the scope of it. I also agree that the pole fixture you're proposing is too refined, too sophisticated for this setting and architecture, and you will probably want to reduce the number of poles and fixtures in there. But otherwise, I think I really appreciate you going to the pole light solution because I think that's the most appropriate. So, Commissioner Vena.
Black wire against white buildings really shows up. If you guys are inclined to go to the string lighting, perhaps they could use white wire, as
I don't think we have support, so it's basically
but
two against.
Should it be, it might be less of an impact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a sense that the string lighting isn't going to pass, but we'll see what the commission does. And that's a good point because maybe somebody wants to make a motion that string lighting with white wire is acceptable to them.
To a degree.
Yeah, to a degree.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
I have a question then for the commission. So these examples that have been brought before us are probably all unpermitted.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a beginning and burgeoning problem. because it's the old precedent. Well, if nobody makes me take mine down, the next neighbor's going to do it, and we're going to have this. We've managed to get it away from the tops of buildings so far, but now it's cropping up in these areas. I think it's at night. Of course, you don't see the wires. It's very romantic and wonderful, but it's god awful ugly during the day,
like a bad cobweb.
Commissioner Schellenberger.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, the applicant should be commended. They're here to try to get it approved, and I didn't mean to make the impression earlier that I couldn't support. I do fully. I mean, they've made a 50% reduction in the proposed string lighting from then to now. So I could see with a more rustic pole light fixture, and maybe I don't know if you need 6 in the patio number 4. Maybe 4 would be more appropriate, and maybe 5 or 6 in patio number 3. Would be more appropriate, but just to sort of reduce the quantity and get a more rustic pole and light, I could support that project, including the string lighting.
The white cord.
Sure.
White cord.
Or recedes a little bit.
And spaced out more, not so close together.
Well, 18 inches on center.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the intensity, we need to understand what these intensity numbers mean. I mean, when you say 6,400.
Well, that's color temperature. 65,000 K or 6,500 K is color temperature. Like these lights here are probably like 3,200 K. So it's even. Then if you look outside the light out there, that's more like 6,000. What you're seeing out that window.
Yeah, but when a 6,000 is coming out of a little bulb, that's a lot.
No, it doesn't matter. It's the intensity of the light.
Well,
yeah.
Well, right in the chart, it says warm
hold on
white.
a second. I have Commissioner Rios who's been trying to be recognized. So Commissioner Rios, please.
I appreciate that you worked with it, but I think what I am concerned about is that I checked the ordinances today and regarding lighting and things like that, and it's very specific about lighting not being across the borders into adjacent properties, and that you cannot satisfy that requirement.
Light trespass.
With your design. I think if you go back and work a little further, you may be able to come up with something that's workable. You've got the concerns about the poles and the light fixtures and things like this. So I would ask you to consider coming back in a couple of weeks or so and see if something can be done. Because I know how devastating these lights can be, particularly the 6,500. I mean,
So, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lavoie.
The application or the agenda shows an architect involved in this project, an architect who's won several awards from this board commission. You need, if the architect is continued to be listed on the agenda, you probably need to avail yourself of his expertise in dealing with this board, both in the selection of the fixture and the amount of light levels that this board is willing to accept. He has quite a bit of experience doing that. It'd be a well use of your money and time to use his expertise.
I think maybe just to reiterate that be sure to consult with your principal on this. I'm not saying that you haven't. I don't think Mr. Lavoie is saying that you haven't, but we want you to continue and tap him for those resources that he has.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Commissioner Lavoie?
No, I don't think Brian was involved with
Okay,
this.
well, I didn't want to say that, but that's fine. Commissioner Schellenberger.
I'd like to make a motion for an indefinite continuance, the applicant to return with these comments in mind with a revised lighting design that takes into account what he's heard today.
Okay. We have a motion by Schellenberger, a second by Arias. Under discussion, is there any more discussion? We have Commissioner Winnick, please, and then Commissioner Murray.
It's a discussion item for the commission, just because it might help the applicant. Would the commission consider string lights if they had where the globe wasn't just exposed, like if there was some sort of canopy or something around the fixture so that the lights would be just focused down.
Like a tin canopy or something?
Yeah, like a tin canopy. I'm just kind of curious.
To respond, Mayor, Chair, to respond to that, what I'm concerned about is the intensity of the light and the light trespassing across the properties and things like this and setting a precedent. And I think the applicant should look into that as a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's why I asked that. Okay,
Commissioner Murray, any under discussion?
Yeah, I guess what I was really trying to say is that when you do this light, it's not just so much the need for light, it's the appropriateness to the architecture, to the history, to the district around it, and to the landscape. I mean, if you were doing a landscape, those lights will have to be corresponding with the landscape, and so then it's not just this add-on kind of thing that we just want to have. So it has to, be enhanced to the architecture.
The setting.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion by Schallenberger, a second by Arias, all under discussion.
Just a suggestion.
Under discussion.
There are some very good examples. I was at the San Ysidro Ranch recently. That restaurant there has some exposed globe lighting, string lighting that looks very nice at night. It's very subtle.
San Ysidro Ranch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just saying there are other examples.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposition from Lavoie. Abstain? No abstentions. Motion carries. Do you understand your motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.